Hello.
All right. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, there we go.
All right. I think that resolved the issue because I was hearing myself. Because the way I have it set up on the recording is I was able to get two tracks, one for you, one for me, and the one for you is coming out of like the speakers of my headphones.
Gotcha. Okay.
So yeah. So and recording it. I'm recording it now. It's like
Live.
live and
Hey,
have more control over the audio too. Like if anything needs to be adjusted, it's all on two separate tracks, you and me.
perfect.
So yeah, how's it going, man?
Not bad. Just another day off. Mondays and Tuesdays are my weekend essentially, so I usually just get stuff done around the house and take it easy. So that's what I've been doing. I've been working on that song a lot the last like week or so. I don't know if I told you that one of my like the girl that I've collaborated with before, who's like a dancer. I like made music for one of her shows before,
Yes, yes.
and then she asked me again to do something for something else that we just kind of just planted the seed
Nice.
for it. But she wants like a half hour long track of some sort. So that's kind of what I've been working on.
Awesome. Very
Yeah, but
nice.
not much else is really happening. I mean, we talked pretty recently, so what's been going on with you?
Um, so yeah, so just been kind of still getting settled. I hung up my cork board on the wall, so I'm gonna start putting up like my posted notes, keep all the ideas out there, and ideally just to what I'd like to do is fill it up with all of the projects first of just what all the things working on, and have goals and just so I feel good having that set up there now. Um, and then I just went out to meet up with Jordan and got my check. He wrote me a check for the money that for the
Nice.
last place, so that's good. And what was cool, dude, is we met at this place called the Cannabis Cafe,
Okay.
which is in Hollywood, and it's a actual restaurant where you can like buy weed and smoke joints in there.
Sweet.
So that was like a novelty experience.
Uh-huh. I
Just
bet.
it's like sitting in a place just like with a bunch of people like, yeah, this is weird. We're just like smoking in public with everybody. So
2020, man.
2020, yeah, and yeah, dude, following these elections, man, I am
Yeah,
not.
what happened?
Oh, dude, well, they results were supposed to start coming out around 5:30 last night, and they didn't, and it was like getting pulled back, and then it became a thing. They're like, "What's going on?" People started saying, "Oh, maybe the DNC was hacked," to which there were reports coming out saying, "No, that's not what happened." Apparently, what happened was is there's a company called Shadow, which orchestrated and designed this app for the DNC for the Iowa like DNC caucus thing, the official
Hmm.
app by this company called Shadow, and one of the main investors for this company was Pete Buttigieg and his campaign. So like as this is all taking a long time, this is immediately like major Bernie supporters are being like, here we go again. The DNC is going to try to rob this from Bernie or try to minimize Bernie's movement. And
Right.
the results didn't come out until like maybe a couple hours ago. And sure enough, Buttigieg wins with like 2 or 3% more than Bernie Sanders. It's super like super close, but the
Yeah.
fact that his campaign invested in this app, which is a big part of the reason why the thing got delayed, not surprised.
Yeah.
Especially
That's
with like
yeah.
Bloomberg after he spent $300,000 or upwards of $1 million into the DNC so he could be in the next debate. The thing has already started to, you know, the roadblocks are coming up already.
Of course. Well, yeah. I mean, they're built-in roadblocks. I mean, this
Yeah,
is that I didn't know anything would happen. I tried to look a little bit last night, but I didn't really see anything. So I didn't know anything until you just told me. But I mean, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't it happen this way?
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
so they're you know backed into a corner. They're going to do whatever they can.
People started getting really upset, and got to remember this is to be expected.
Yeah.
They did this to Bernie last time. They're going to try it and do it again. But the big thing that is to Bernie Sanders' advantage, even still with this like very frustrating event, is that none of the other moderate candidates that they've been running against Bernie are have the type of appeal that Bernie does. They don't have the following. They don't have the individual donations. They don't have any of that. You know, they got Joe Biden, who came in fourth, which is like he got 0% of the delegates.
Yeah.
That is, I think, the biggest thing. It's like, okay, that's a very successful caucus. Immediately, just like, get the hell out of here, Joe Biden. All these people saying Joe Biden's the most electable candidate. And it's like, no, he is not, clearly.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing.
I mean, and I feel like, you know, the more that stuff like this happens, the more people who are passionate about Bernie or change or like actual just, you know, whatever that the movement is, it's, you know, it's an energy wave that's symbolic of our whole society, you know, whether or not, you know, you're on that, which side you're on. But like I feel like, you know, it's just like every time that they try to do something, it's probably just going to motivate this group of people to, you know, be more active for Bernie. That just seems like the type of people that are, you know, in his camp that are like, oh, you're going to fuck with us again. Now we're going to come back even harder. And then they're building up, you know, it's like you're building up an immunity, or you're just like, you're just empowering the enemy at this point. If you're the DNC or the corrupt people, it's just like this is the only way they know how to do stuff. They can't win honestly. So it's like, all right, well, we'll just play our old dirty tricks.
Yeah.
And play all the same old tunes, and then it'll work. But it's like, no, you just keep pissing the people off, and people feel so much more entitled these days and motivated, and have a lot more time on their hands, that the more you fuck with Bernie and those type of people, the more you're you know, the writing's on the wall that you're trying to get people like Joe Biden in there and all this fucking shady stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, the way it seems to be shaping up, and there's so much speculation, and there has been so much speculation about what's it going to come down to. Is it going to be Elizabeth Warren? Is it going to be freaking Klobuchar or Joe Biden? You know, all this stuff. And they've been trying to pit, like, Warren and Sanders against each other, and she did much better than any of the other. I mean, the top three were Buttigieg, Sanders, and Warren in this caucus. But the fact that if you project it and start to think, who is this going to come down to in the two last standing Democratic primary people, I have a feeling it's going to come down to Bloomberg. There's a good chance it could come down to Bloomberg and Bernie Sanders, which is hilarious because Bloomberg is a billionaire who literally bought his way into the election versus who has no appeal whatsoever. No, really nobody likes him. People like his ads. His ads are good. But the guy is a freaking out of touch, you know, phony guy. So it'd be really interesting to see him and Bernie Sanders go at it with each other.
Well, I mean, yeah, they have that. He's their champion at this point. It can't be Hillary Clinton or, you know, anybody tried and true. So now they have to put somebody else in that spot, and he's probably everyone's buddy. Sure. So it just makes more. I mean, yeah, it just makes sense. Like, none of this is. I hope a lot of people are learning that as well. Like, I'm obviously not anywhere near as deep into politics as a lot of people our age. But I really hope a lot of people aren't, like, they're seeing past, you know, how many times, you know, we're in our 30s now, we're the people that are going to elect them, our late 20s, you know, how many times, or in our 40s, but how many times have we seen these same tactics done, and then we get mad, and then we spend time and energy bitching at each other and bitching about them and not doing anything about it. Like, I really hope there's enough of us at the point, enough of them, us at the point where we're like, all right, let's just keep going. Like, just kind of brush it off, you know, instead of letting that be the thing. Oh, they did this and they did that. It's like, don't just ignore that. Just keep going.
We already know about that. We're aware of it. Yeah. I was watching the Young Turks coverage of the thing last night, and Cenk Uygur, who's actually running for Congress in Palmdale. I think it's Palmdale in California. Which is really cool. But anyway, that's a really good progressive network. But he was furious. He was losing his shit, getting so upset and flustered. And it's like, dude, we already knew this was going to happen. Like, the fact that we knew this was going to happen means we should not just react the way that it's a button. It's a button that we knew was all going to get pushed. And when that button is pushed, proverbial they, want us to react in a very emotional way. And then people will be like, oh, well, see, look, they're all reacting this way, just like we thought.
Right.
And that doesn't really help anything.
No.
But it's
Did
yeah.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I tell you? Because Trump was in Milwaukee like a month ago,
Yes,
and did we talk about that at all?
I think a little bit.
Okay. Well, I went to the Bucks game.
Remind me.
Well, I just went. The one thing I took from it was we were walking to the Bucks game, and I think literally the Trump rally was at the same time, like 2 blocks away from the Bucks game. So we saw a lot of people that were going to. It's obnoxious downstairs. They're playing.
Is that what that noise is?
It's so obnoxious.
Wow. Is that like house
Beating-
music?
Just beating, no, it's like literally beating on a snare drum.
Oh, okay. Wow. Oh my god.
Anyway, I can't. It's so hard for me to focus now. Or walking to the game, and then the people who are Trump people, like to show that they're Trump people. They're not out there. They weren't yelling at anybody, but what they were wearing, and they were like pulling a wagon, and had the flag. But every one of them that I saw were keeping to themselves. It was like the other people around our age that were like, "Fuck you, fuck Trump, get the fuck out!" Like they were the ones.
Yeah.
Like these people who would probably, some of them would be Bernie people and Elizabeth Warren people. Like they were screaming at these Trump people.
I know.
Like just walking by, like across the street. It's like, what is that? Like that you're making it like they're the bad guy, but you're being a horrible person, cursing at this person who's just walking down the street minding their own business. Like, what the fuck? I was just like shocked, but then I wasn't shocked because I was like, of course, people just like getting worked up about that shit. But that to me is like, well, what? There are no sides. There's just people that are shitty, and then there are people that are generally good. That's all there is to it.
Yep. Well, there was
just angry and yelling at people. It's like, what the fuck? You just want to yell at people. You don't want things to change.
It's people are triggered. That's one of the words, meme words right now. Is people are so triggered and reactive to seeing something as mundane as a hat. But that hat represents a complete thing. And then what was it like? Not the Antifa. That's the thing I was thinking about. There was a documentary. I forgot where I saw it, maybe on HBO or Netflix, but it talks about like, Antifa and the whole Charlottesville thing with the rally and the guy driving through the crowd, all of that. And the whole documentary kind of went around this thing where you've got these like race, like, Nazi groups basically that by the First Amendment are allowed to make marches in certain places and make, assemblies in public. So they start doing these things, and groups like Antifa, which I think a lot of the people that are involved with Antifa on the managerial level, I think they're trying to do the right thing in terms of being a counterforce to bring awareness. Like, hey, you got these hate groups all over the place. There's an organization called the Southern Poverty Law Center that I used to, give donations to, and it's all about just like recognize. It's like, hey, you got freaking KKK groups meetings all over the place, but then then down on the lower levels, they take it to a whole nother step where they'll purposely go to where a KKK or a neo-Nazi march or assembly is going on, intentionally to just get into a fight. It's like, of course, I don't support neo-Nazis. I don't support the Ku Klux Klan or any of those types of things. But I'm not going to go intentionally put myself in the way of violence just for what? It's like, to get into a huge fight, it's not going to solve anything. You're not going to go to a big rally, one side versus the other, and expect some sort of like peaceful coexistence or conversation. It's like somebody hates Jews. I'm not going to go and stand there and get in his face. Is that, it's only going to cause an incident. And then both sides start pointing at each other. 'Cause that's the thing is like groups like Antifa, but then they're like those guys you were just describing. They go in with like face covered, black masks on, and they just like go in and riot and shit and just like stir things up. Yeah. That's not going to solve anything.
No. And it goes down to intention, like everything always does. But what is their intention to have a conversation and try to change or learn and be productive, or is it to stir things up? And clearly, it's pretty clear these days when what the intention is of somebody. If somebody's just trying to get you roused up, get a rise out of you, then it's evident. If people behave differently if they are actually engaging in a conversation and they're open to discussion. They
Yeah.
behave very differently and they speak very differently. If you're coming in there, body language, tonation in your speaking, and it's very easy to tell if you're really trying to be productive or destructive, basically.
Yeah. There's a guy that I forgot his name, but he's on Joe Rogan's podcast just recently. But this guy, African American guy, who went and he's converted like 200 plus KKK members to like give up their robes, basically. And it's been exactly that, a story of this guy who's just a very articulate, well-spoken, very intelligent human being who ends up getting into encounters with these like very just ignorant people that have these belief systems that go way back that, the black people are inferior, but comes at it with a conversation. And it's just like, wow, I never really thought that, I always thought of you people as subhuman or something. It's like, no, man, this guy's actually, I think, might be smarter than I am. It's like, okay. And this guy has like had that conversation with people, went into it with an attitude or an intention at least that, hey, it's just like let's talk about this.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And this is, as in with the last election and the one before, you can really tell people are just becoming more, proud of whatever they are. So the louder, dumber, more aggressive people are not hiding anymore, and same thing with the other side. So it's just a lot of people who inciting, right, who like just making chaos,
and people that are capitalizing on that.
Oh yeah, exactly.
They're actively making it. They're making an effort to stir things up. I mean, regardless of the whole Russia hacking our elections, that's a very broad topic, which I'm not so sure about the direct connection causation factor. But there were groups of people that there were Facebook farms of people that would create Facebook pages, get people to set up a pro-life rally on one side of the street, and then they would arrange a pro-choice rally on the other side of the street, and then they both show up not knowing the other ones are going to be there, and then they're like, hey, fuck you, no, fuck you, and then a huge riot ensues. And it was one group of people that created that whole thing, which then drives headlines and oh, see what happened, look at the violence, it's just happening randomly. It's no, there's definitely some orchestration going on in here.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
What's that in The Kingsman with Colin Firth? You've seen that, right? Mm-hmm. Where just it's like mandala, really. It's just they turn the frequency on and everyone in the church starts going nuts and attacking each other. It's all it takes now is just someone to put on that MAGA hat, and then it's just what?
Not even a MAGA hat, just a red hat.
Just a red hat.
Just a red hat. They're like, oh, is that a fucking Trump guy? Oh no, it's a guy wearing a basketball hat. Oh,
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But for a second there, they get they're on edge already, literally seeing the color red. It's oh, now I'm triggered to fucking, Uncle Bruce always says, when someone's pushing their buttons, they're literally in control of you.
Yep.
They're making you behave that way.
Mm-hmm.
So people are walking around getting more manipulated than ever before. I think we see these things and we hear these things, and now automatically it's not it seems like the reactions are getting more aggressive. People are just very quickly switching from one thing to another if this happens or this person says that or whatever. It's really intense.
Do you watch Curb Your Enthusiasm?
I do. I haven't seen any of this season yet, though.
Yeah, highly recommend it. It's I'm not going to give any spoilers, but there is definitely something very relevant to our conversation right now in that in the first couple episodes. It's hilarious.
Awesome. I love that guy. Yeah. Me and my brother love that show, so we always talk about it, but I haven't been caught up with this one yet.
Yeah, the new season's really good.
I know there's a joke about Jeff, his agent or his buddy, getting mistaken for
Harvey Weinstein.
Weinstein or
Yeah.
yeah, something like that.
Yep. Yeah, it kind of looks like him a little bit. Not, I mean, not as hideous as Weinstein, but
No. Weinstein's a scary looking guy.
yeah, I mean, the stories. I woke up I saw on YouTube recently a documentary. It was like a 60 minutes Australia edition of Harvey Weinstein, and oh my God, just
I feel like I might have seen that one.
yeah, yeah, where there's like the lady that went in for some sort of tech meeting, and she filmed the whole like interaction between her and Harvey Weinstein, and just guy was just like a total creep predator. I mean, because that was always like I was thinking about it. There, everyone knew there was that casting couch thing, and that there were, hey, suck my dick and I'll make you a star kind of attitude. But there was really no one held accountable for that, like
No,
specifically.
even I remember when we were in school at film school, they would, since our teachers, some of them weren't teachers, so they weren't like speaking like a teacher, like a PC teacher, like they were just people who were worked in the film industry, and they would casually mention that like as a joke, as an aside, but like that seems like, and it wasn't like a surprise. It seemed like it was kind of, yeah, it's just kind of, if you want to work your way up in the world, you got to suck some dick, or it's a good easy way to go. You're a quick way up the ladder is to give in to powerful men. And it seems like for all the stories about Weinstein, it just seemed like such a system for him. It's just like, this is just how it goes. He didn't think any different of it. Like he's not doing anything. It's just how it goes. Come on, sweetie, we'll do this, we'll do that. I got a contract here for you, and then your career is jump started and you're good to go.
And then there's all the people that are just like have no choice. And that's what the morning show is about on the Apple TV Plus, right. Which is a really, really, really good show. And it's ridiculous, and it's I think it's gone overboard a bit at certain times. There's just that like we're overcorrecting for something that has been going on for so long. Yeah. And a lot. It's like no matter what, anything that's ever been good gets exploited. So there's still that exploitation. Like there's that funny thing with Johnny Depp. I don't know if you heard about that, but with the woman that he was with, and the stories of like what happened. That she was apparently very abusive, and it's like how do we respond to this? We're always so quick to judge, quick to react. We rarely take the time to think things through. But ultimately, we want to do the right thing. So it's a good sign on that front.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, it's going to be hard for 7 or however many people have access to the internet. It wouldn't be 7 billion people, but for that many people, on the internet to collectively like be calm when stuff like this happens. It's too difficult as like an organism. Maybe, hopefully in the future when we're more evolved and, 500 years and we're more calm about stuff, but you just got to expect that there's a certain group, a certain percentage of people that are always going to see one headline or hear one thing, almost doesn't matter who from, and immediately just like post something about it, or retweet, or just, how it just goes so quickly. And then, an hour later, not even an hour later, oh, we got it all wrong. They won't admit that, but like maybe, another video come out, like the Johnny Depp stuff, like the video or the audio comes out pretty clearly. I just listened to it like an hour ago, like her admitting that she hit him and got physical with him. And I don't know if there was like, that's the first I heard of it was when those videos were posted, like, oh my God, this girl did that to Johnny Depp. Like I never heard the if she accused him beforehand, and that's how it started. So I don't even know. I didn't have that really in context, but I could see how people would come out and be like, Johnny Depp beats women, blah, 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 without even giving it a little bit of time or a little bit of research. And then all of a sudden there's literally her audio. I heard she recorded these conversations, or at least the particular one, like she recorded it thinking that it was making her look good or like making him look worse,
Yeah.
And so, backfired. You just have to expect that some people definitely backfire, that some people will just want to react as quickly as possible. And that's also a lot of what the internet is like being the first. Like I tweeted it first, or, so that there's that mentality of it. Like I knew before everybody else. So no matter if it's wrong or if it's right, then I'm going to tout it because it fits in with my beliefs, and I like getting angry at men, popular white men. Like I have some good friends who just female friends who like enjoy when white men like are in trouble or like look, you know, like they had finally something's coming, you know, their way. Like they revel in it. I'm like, okay, I understand that I can't really talk. I'm a white dude, but you're literally like aggressively like hoping for white men to get hurt or their careers to get taken down because they're white men, you know, without
Yep.
like thinking about it.
Nope. I mean, that it's true that is like a reckoning of attitude, but I think we're in the middle of that right now, and we don't solve it by repeating the same type of actions and acting upon the same belief systems that got us to this point, because that's always been the thing. It's like, okay, well, it's these people over here, but really, or those people over there. It's the belief systems that have got us this point. It's the operating system that we've been operating with, and yeah, well, I ideally it'll all come to, and there is a glimmer of hope with the internet, as much as it's a complete double-edged sword. There is a lot of, you know, misperceptions and quick rational irrational conclusions made from things that we see on the internet with no fact checking. But then the good side of it is that we have more transparency. There's more connective tissue going on here. Mm-hmm. And the more connections that we have, the more angles we can see and understand something. So we're not just looking at something from its face value anymore. We're starting to see around it, and it's a facade. There's nothing back here. We've been propping up this whole thing thinking that this was real, but it's not. And then it's like, okay, well, what's behind that? Oh, what do you see from over there? And so it's, again, it all gets exploited. Everything gets exploited sooner or later.
That's still like in our nature, I think. You know, we have so many like 20th century humans stuff in there, like, you know, when everything came to be in marketing and making things better and selling ourselves, and, you know, and selling the war and, you know, selling everything. It's kind of like hard, like we have this hardwired like to take advantage of things now just because of the way our culture is. So yeah, hopefully that'll work its way out. You know, we're still in the middle of this storm. You know, we always talk about 2012 or when, you know, Obama got elected and like all these, and then the mass arrests. You know, we always think about it like something's going to happen quickly, like a thing. But like the more as time goes on and the stuff just keeps happening, it's like we're just going to be in it. Our whole lives are just the whole thing. You know, there's no one day, there's no 1 year, there's not even a decade. It's just like literally our whole lives are going to be this moment that we're like looking for. We're like, oh, are we in the crazy times? It's like we've been in the crazy times
the whole time.
The whole thing is the crazy time.
Yes.
So,
yes. And
you know, it's just a matter of how much progress we'll make while being crazy and moving forward like a fucking hurricane. It's still moving, you know, as it's moving. So hopefully we can keep moving somewhere while being chaotic.
Yeah, stay in that center of the storm.
Yeah, and get to a place where we can finally, like, the storm can calm down and we can like be like, oh, what the fuck just happened? You know, like after a crazy night of partying, you wake up at 4 a.m. on the floor. You're like, oh fuck, what? Oh shit. I'm gonna piece this together. Is everyone okay?
Yeah.
And then hopefully we gather everybody and we're like, okay, that was crazy. Let's not do that again.
Yeah.
And then, you know, hopefully from there we can find. I think it'll be another thing, kind of like when America was founded. It's just, you know, the opportunity will be there. You know, like they always talk about chaos and opportunity. You know, that's why they like governments like stirring up stuff, and so they can have an opportunity to put in a new government or sneak stuff over here. But it really will just come to a point where so much stuff will happen. Like I was watching a little bit more about, I'm still really deep into the detective stuff. So I was watching a documentary about Raymond Chandler, and he like loved Los Angeles, and it just kind of painted this picture of what Los Angeles was like in the time of Raymond Chandler and why he got that perspective. And literally when it like the shit kind of fell down because of so much crime and just, you know, corruption and all that stuff, that literally LA literally got rid of their mayor, recalled him, put a new guy in there, and he literally got rid of everybody. Like all the people that were like in any position of power, like literally the entire city was like purged from this shit people. Wow. And it really did change things for the better. And I feel like that could be, a microcosm of what is possible here. Is like we have a government. It's like Los Angeles existed, and there was this system in place, but the parts of the system were malfunctioning. So it's not like we need to come up with a whole new government, but things need to be modified. But the whole blueprint is there. It's just a matter of putting the right pieces in the right places, and obviously right now they're not. So it'd be nice if we had that purge, like they talk about the mass arrests and stuff like that. That could, I think, happen quickly, but
then again, who's orchestrating that? Like that's
right. Who watches the Watchmen?
Yeah, the idea of mass arrests and secret courts with all of these things happening in secret, that like under the belief system that it needs to happen in secret because they're all so rich and wealthy that if it happens in public, they'll all if one guy gets indicted, then all the other guys are going to get away or something like that. And in some way, like you've seen the movie Spotlight with Mark Ruffalo about the like the Catholic Church and everything. Like they had that exact argument in there. Like it was like one of the scenes they showed at the Academy Awards that year, which it won Best Picture, in very surprising win, by the way. But Mark Ruffalo was like, "We need to release the data now. We need to do it now. These fucking people." And he's like, "No." Michael Keaton's like, "No, we have to wait because if we do it now, then all these other people. It's like we have a much bigger story." So in that respect, I get like the necessity for doing certain things in secret, but like if that's the case, that article needs to come out. Like it needs to come out now. Like something has to happen now. And if it were mass arrests, like coup, like okay, who are these people, and how do we know that they have our best interests in mind?
Right.
If they come in acting like some sort of savior, alliance, like the alliance saved the day with these guys up here, like according to the original like vlog by Wilcock, was like Rudy Giuliani and Jeff Sessions and Donald Trump are here, truly the heroes. Like they like, what if Donald Trump came out and was like, you're welcome, America. I saved you from all the satanic bullshit going on. And then everyone's just like, oh yes, thank you. You had our best interest. Like, and then this is not a guy that's going to take power and bestow it back upon the people. That's just, there's no evidence for him to ever be able to do that. And who would even if it was like someone we didn't know. That's the biggest problem. So there needs to be some sort of event, but it has to be representative of what the people want. Like there needs to be that transparency.
Yeah, I mean, so that's probably the toughest part about it, and that's why if it has been delayed, or if it's ever going to happen, that's why it's taking so long. I think is because it needs to be done with all those things in mind. You don't want to just change it out and get rid of Trump or X, Y, and Z, and then put in these new people that we don't know either, that are like, no, trust me, we know, we've been on the inside for 100 years and we know better. We'll show all this stuff to you. And then it's just like,
that just sounds like part of their plan.
We just have to trust you now. Like, that's what you have to do. It's like, well, what if we don't trust you? It's like, well, this is what we're doing now. Sorry. So it's like, all right, well, I didn't have a choice in either one of them. So what just happened? We just like took this out, and then this other thing looks kind of similar. And we just put that one back in there, and now it's the same, but it's different. And we don't know anything about it. It's just it's just tough. It's really tough. I don't know.
It's like a same
event planning, like thinking about like an event planner or a wedding planner. Like, what kind of fucking event is this? Like, imagine those people like sitting like, how do we do that? You have to take in all this data and consideration, and these people aren't going to listen. And like we were talking about, so this group of people, this percentage of people is going to react this way, and it's going to affect these people over here, and that's going to make this whole thing happen. So then the perception is going to be this. We have to shut down the internet for a day or a week or a month. Do we have to cut off all communications? Do we have to make sure food is like overstocked? We have to they have to take into account all these things. If these people really are planning on changing the world like this, they have to make sure that before they pull the trigger, or before they release the article, or whatever the thing is, that all these things, because you don't want to fucking get almost there and then blow your load 2 minutes before.
If this has been in the works for 50, 60 plus years, according to some people. So yeah, of course it's like, let's not take this out of the oven until it's ready to be taken out of the oven. But
I mean, we want it to, we kind of need it. There's going to be a point where I think we're going to be so hungry for the food in the oven that we might starve and die if we wait
Yeah.
too long, but it's not going to be ready until after we would die. So they might need to come out a little bit, like I think they'll feed off of each other, and it's like they have an ideal time frame. Maybe they or the energy or the gods or whoever have this timeline, or we just made it up, or we've been lied to and we're just going by this story because it sounds exciting and it gives us less responsibility because much other dudes are about to do it. But it's just, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how or when or where or
Well,
or what.
Yeah, it's again, it's, I think the best, it's like the Wizard of Oz. It's literally like the Wizard of Oz, where we've been going on this journey down the yellow brick road for all this time in search of the grand wizard to solve all of our problems. And like this event is that it's like a 2-stage event in this story where they get to the wizard finally. And it's this like disturbing, scary, bow down before me, you feeble, I'm the Wizard of Oz. And it's like, ah. And then it takes Toto to go over there and like move across the curtain. You realize it's just like this guy in the back who, because in the first stage, you're like, fuck this Wizard of Oz. He's scary. And then you find out he's this like little old, magician guy. And then you want to, be pissed at him because it's like, oh, you've been lying to us the whole time. And like, you can't solve any of our problems. And then in a way he does, but it's not and this is, I think, the third part of this story of the 3 stages. The third stage is like receiving the humanity. It's like what happens in that final exchange. It's compassion, the gifts that the Wizard of Oz gives the other travelers with Dorothy are not things that they didn't have. It was like these symbolic things that just like reminded them of what they already had, which they were not sure of themselves, like the lion being cowardly the whole time gave him this thing like, now you have courage. And he's like, oh, you're right. Okay. It's like he always had courage. So it's again, it comes back to this compassion and just recognizing, ourselves in the other. And that's the final stage. And, I guess in the Illuminati plan from its inception, if you want to call it that, like the Illuminati plan, as if there was a plan written down. Maybe there was, and maybe it's just something that built up over time. Maybe both. All the above. But still, it's this end of the road thing where we just basically learn to see ourselves in each other and stop fighting each other. And the wizard has been this convenient symbol that we project all of our fears and insecurities onto. And that's the biggest thing that we're facing right now. It's like we're in that deep, like right about to see the wizard moment, it feels like. But it's like we've not been going down this journey for so long for something not to happen. And things are happening, but, there are some events that are much more punctuation marks than others.
Yeah, and we tend to, I feel like those are the ones that you aren't, not what you're expecting. It's basically what the whole thing you were just saying is we're getting to a point, we're expecting this thing because of this thing, and then it's not going to be what we're going to get it in a different way, I think, and it might be underwhelming or something, but it won't be, I don't know, because we're expecting, the theatrics, because we love movies so much, and then that's how stuff happens, they're going to arrest everybody and walk them down, Pennsylvania Avenue, 100 people in handcuffs that are like the most powerful people in Washington, or, whatever the big scene is going to be. But I think the Wizard of Oz metaphor seems accurate and more probable than whatever we expect. Whatever we expect to happen is probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
Who knows? Something might have already happened and we don't even know. But yeah, I think that sounds like a nice moment, that when we all get to the end of the road, we're on this side and they're on that side, the people that we didn't get along with, and then we all realize that we're all there together looking for the same thing. And we're all human beings, and it's like, well, what do you want? It's like, well, this is what I want. We're like, well, I want that too. Oh, all right, well, let's do that then. I forgot that we all wanted the same thing. I just got, it's like I just imagine everybody standing naked in a field. That's the end of the road. It's like you got nothing, you got no, you got no colors on you or anything, or there's no way to be like, to hate people unless you're just obviously racist or something. But it's just like we're all in the same fucking boat, and I think once that perception kind of gets, I think it is kind of happening because everyone feels like they're being screwed on both sides instead of just one side being screwed and the other one. Like we're talking about sides when there really are infinite sides, but
everyone's getting screwed, and it's just like the question is just what are we getting screwed by?
Let's okay, yeah. Who's screwing us, and what can we do together? Once it's like, no, we're on the same. It's like that scene in Braveheart. I forget who's running at who, and then they're like, then they stop, and then they all hug each other instead of. I don't know if it's the Irish and the Scottish or something like that, but you think they want everyone to think that they're about to battle, but really they're like, oh no, we're going to team up because we both want the same thing.
Yep.
And there was like that, once, powerful, just as is, any major prolific leader brings people together, right? You make your team bigger and you make your team stronger. That's what you want. And obviously the other rulers are the ones who divide and conquer. So such an age-old tactic, but you could see it every day. So like putting these people, like arranging those protests across the street from each other, like you were talking about, it's like perfect thing. Like these people might have walked past each other on the street and had no issue with each other, but all of a sudden you put two fences in between them in a street and a couple of signs, and they hate these people. Yeah. When really they want this. They're out there literally. If you look from above, they're the same fucking thing. Yeah. You don't know who's what. That's the same fucking. You're both out there, yelling and shouting because you want some shit, and now all of a sudden you're yelling at each other instead of whatever it is you were out there to be yelling at or to be about. So it's pretty clear to see that. But once maybe we, it's like all those. Have you ever seen those dog videos where they're like, dogs are like on opposite sides of the fence or something like that, and they're growling at each other, growling, and then the fence like opens up, and they're like, oh, and they stop growling because there's no longer a gate between them. They're like, okay. I was just talking shit, I didn't, I didn't mean it. So once there's no barrier anymore, it's like, oh, we're the same. Yep. We were just talking shit. Yep. And I feel like that's hopefully, I don't know what will get us to that point where we both realize that we're just talking shit to each other when we really, really want the same thing. But maybe this election will do something like that. Like everybody, just like maybe if everybody got fucked and they just like, the elections didn't go as well, so we're just going to throw Joe in there. We're just going to throw in there, and Joe Biden's the president. Sorry, guys. Yeah. And then everyone will be like, wait, what the fuck?
That's we got the numbers wrong, and we're just going to put Joe Biden in there. Like Trump secedes to Joe Biden. That would do it. If Trump seceded to Joe Biden, everybody would be pissed. There'd be there might be like a few people that are like, hey, back to the way things. Both of those guys represent, let's go back to the way things were. But just like, depend, like, which, where, when. Like when, like one of them wants to go back really far, the other one wants to go back just like 10 years. Let's just go back to the way it was 10 years, and it's like no, we need to go back to the way it was 100 years ago. And it's like, man, both you guys are fucking out of your minds.
You're going the wrong way, man.
You're going the wrong way.
We're going this way. We're not going back.
You're like, well, you know what? Go your own way. It's like, all right, fine. Everybody goes their own way, and it's just like Joe Biden by himself. Like,
yeah.
But, and another really good world example of this is in World War I. There was I think it was like the first year, like the first Christmas of 1913. I think it was 1913, 1914 when the war began. They had these trenches built, like hundreds of miles of just like within maybe like 50 yards. On one side you got the German trenches, and the other side you got like the French and British trenches, and there's no man's land in the middle. They were right there, and they constantly bombarding each other with artillery and guns and everything, and it was the most devastating warfare to hit the earth ever, biggest crisis of all time, right? And it came down to Christmas Eve, and the sound of the Germans singing Christmas songs. They didn't understand what they were saying, but they could tell the melody. And then the Allies, they started singing the Christmas songs. And then eventually they start kind of popping their heads up, and they all eventually meet in no man's land. And there's this really famous photograph. Have you seen this, where they're actually just like exchanging cigarettes and eating chocolate with each other? And like that was a very interesting time because, you got these big seemingly opposing forces at each other's necks. But in reality, none of them wanted to be there. None of
Yeah.
them wanted. They're there because it's part of the war machine. That was a
Yeah.
really new thing, and they didn't really know why. They had the propaganda on both sides of why they hated each other. But it took that one, it's like common thing, Christmas Eve, and the idea that both sides leaders were sending them into suicide positions basically.
Yeah.
They were like, you know what, it's fine. And then it was like, all right, Christmas over. All right, have a nice Christmas. They go back in their trenches, and the next morning they're shooting at each other again. It's like,
Right.
that was a really powerful glimpse into what happens when we just remember our humanity in the middle of the most inhumane circumstances. And then also saying, you know what, it's like no one really wants to be here. And that type of thing happened a number of times throughout the war, especially towards the end. There was a point when the German line got up and just started like the Allies reported it like from multiple places. This one German guy got up and was just screaming in German, and he just took off his helmet and like took his gun and broke it in half on his leg, and all the Germans are like, yeah, and they all just start breaking their guns. And then the Allies start doing the same. It was just like no one wanted to be doing that.
Yeah.
That's I feel like right now too. It's like a lot of people don't want to be, the majority of people don't want to be at war. They don't want to be hurting each other. They just want to be happy and live a life. Do unto others as you'll do to you. Of course, you're going to have a bunch of extreme knuckleheads, and they've got a huge voice in the media for a very good reason, because that's a good exploitation capitalization market.
Right.
But those moments happen. And I think that would be the ultimate disclosure, is if in the middle of all this shit, we just stopped paying attention. We stopped buying into all this bullshit together.
Yeah.
It wasn't about the next thing, like, oh, let's buy this instead of that. It's like, no, like, just fuck all this. Let's turn the other way. So,
Yeah. I mean, we have the capacity. That was over 100 years ago.
yep.
In World War One. And granted, it was extreme circumstances, like literally life or death. Like right now, we're not in that situation, you and I,
Yeah.
and a lot of people, not as many people as back then, percentage of the people. But I mean, yeah, the fact that they were able to, in the most intense situation you could be in, see that they were the same people. Like those people had more in common, the German soldiers and the Allied soldiers, they had more in common than most people they've ever encountered in their life. Because they were both in the exact same intense situation for the same reasons, but opposite or whatever. Like they were the same people. Like you were saying, it's like you're singing a song, I'm singing a song. We celebrate the same thing. Oh wait, you're not a bad person. You're just doing what you think is right, and so do I. And look, we're human. Yeah, I watched a video about that Christmas truce too, and there were reports of them making little soccer balls or footballs, and they were literally having scrimmage soccer games in the middle of the fucking war. Like that's how playful it was. It's like, whoa, you like soccer? I like soccer. Like that's the most, universal thing. Like, I got a ball, you want to kick it? If they couldn't talk, I'm sure not everybody spoke everybody's language, but it's like cigarettes, a drink, soccer ball. Mm-hmm. We're the same. Like you seem like a good dude.
Yep.
So that's, if you ever needed, like, obviously I don't think we need convincers of that humans are generally good, or, not everyone's out here evil trying to make a mockery of everything or kill people or harm people. But yeah, the fact that we had the capacity to do that 100 years ago, and with less communication, now how easy would it be with the internet? You can get something across to 100 million people in 5 minutes. If everyone's dialed in, you just release something on YouTube or like a live, anything, like you tweet something. If you have one person who has 10 million followers, 100 million followers, tweet them something, literally all this information could be around the globe almost instantly. So the ability to, I think that's much more in favor of the ability for us to connect with each other rather than disconnect with each other. Even though there's a lot of easy ways to find things that are different with people, I think the connection of communication we have these days is really works in our favor so heavily. If something happens that could unite us, I think that's the best way that it could happen. Because we are fighting. Now it's a less physical, where everyone's fighting a war in some way on in their personal lives or on the internet. So, a metaphor for that could just be like people, stop attacking each other on the internet, or stop listening to certain news outlets like on my soccer website on Reddit, like they have a tier for news. Everybody does, but it's like literally don't post anything that's under tier 3 because they're just out there just spouting shit. So like all these things that would just be out there just to get, clickbait, don't put it here because that's not relevant to this, only things that are like accredited are what should be talked about. And like that's how it should be. Like, okay, like you said, turn the other way. Like stop focusing on these people yelling on TV and getting you all this and that, or making you think that they hate you, and like just people telling you how they think other people feel about you. And it's like, they really feel that way about me? I can't believe that. Thank you for telling me that, guy randomly on TV. I didn't know that this person hated me and wanted me to die. Now I have to hate them. And then I say something and this person sees it, they go, what? This person fucking hates me and wants me to die? Well, fuck that guy.
Yeah. And parents, parenting that comes from that as well. Like that's a mentality. The reason that exists is because even before TV, there were just parents that were like, we hate those people, so you have to hate them too. And it's like, you don't even have to tell them you have to hate them. All you have to do is tell a kid when they're young that they'll just put that idea in their head that they're out to get you and all that. And then it proliferates. And that it's just that whole idea too of like reinforcing the us versus them mentality, good versus evil mentality. Not to say that evil doesn't exist in the world. Like that's a very contentious topic, and I wouldn't go as far as to say it doesn't exist, but the idea of good versus evil, us versus them, the evil, the bad guys are out there somewhere, that mentality has totally screwed us up. And that's how they're able to get you, because there's always something out there that we don't know about. The whole thing, like in the Matrix, it's like, know yourself, know thyself. And it's like, if we start thinking that there's evil in the world, well, maybe that what we see out in the world is evil. It's like, well, what are we doing that's kind of bringing this on? How are we influencing what's going on out there? Like America's foreign policy of just going out there and telling other people, it's like, you should do what we're doing because we're the right ones, we're the righteous ones. And maybe idealistically we have been, but by going out and doing that without addressing our own issues, like do as I say, not as I do, just makes the whole thing worse and compounds it, and then just actually creates that thing, like that thing that wasn't even out there in the first place. We created this thing, which then comes back, and it's like, see, look, there it is. Like, it's there to get us. It's like, yeah, well, we kind of like made that thing. We're like Dr. Frankenstein. We made this thing come to life, and now it's wreaking havoc all over the place.
Yeah.
So,
and that metaphorically, that's what people do, and personally in their lives too. It's the same thing. You create these issues, and then the situation comes back around where it confirms your beliefs based on what you were doing. Well, this thing does this and that, so I'm going to behave that way, and then all of a sudden it does what you expected it to do, and you're like, see, I knew it would do that. That's why I fucking hate it. It's like, no, but I made that happen. Just from my actions and what I said and what I did and how I carried myself. It's like, it's the same old story, personally and collectively. We're doing this stuff. We're just not self-aware enough. I mean, that's what it comes down to. A lot of people that you speak to or you hang around with that are very self-aware. It's very different feeling, very different conversation. People who are completely not self-aware. Not saying, you and I are like, these angel.
The best example
beings.
of self-awareness. Yeah.
But like we are trying to be conscious of how we sound and what we act and we do affects things. And America clearly is either willfully ignorant or like fucking totally very aware of what they're doing when it comes to foreign diplomacy and what they do around the world. And because obviously it's perpetuating a machine. It's like you want to set up an army base here in the Middle East and kind of stir up some shit. So then the generation grows up hating the United States, and then they vow to kill people here. And then we show that the U.S. public videos of these people saying that they want to kill the people of the United States, and we don't actually know what they're saying. Someone's translating it for us, and it says they hate us because we're free. And it's like, okay, now we need more guns.
Yeah.
Well, so it's very easy to see that they're doing that on purpose. But I think we're smarter than we used to be, and we're not as easily. We're still gullible, but I think collectively we're less gullible than we have been. So if they keep telling us these same, like, oh, they hate us because we're free, it's like, okay, well, so we need to go conquer this place, like you said.
Right.
Like, where are we as far as education? Are we
Yeah.
even in top 10 in the
No, we're
world?
like
Like,
not
no,
even
we're
in the
not.
top 20 or 2030, and that
Right, and
makes it worse.
right. So that's just like, how are we going to go and set up a democracy somewhere when, yeah, it's like my house is falling apart, but I'm like at my neighbor's house, like trying to help them fix their roof, against their will. It's like their roof is fine. Like, worry about your fucking
Yeah,
roof
yeah,
because
yeah.
it's about to collapse.
Yeah, exactly.
But
That's a
it's
perfect
just,
example.
we just need more. I mean, the metaphors are all out there. I mean, all the memes are literally the symptoms of our status as a collective society right now. Like, they're all relevant to everything. Just kind of, that's our way of dealing with it. Because what can most people really do when it comes to foreign policy? And the answer is nothing.
And that's
Like, you can't really do anything except fucking make and then spread information that you hope to spread. Like when people post stuff on Facebook when they're upset about it, or Instagram. And a couple people like posted about the halftime show the other night because it was so like Latina,
yeah.
like centric, and had all these little metaphors and all that stuff in there. But I don't know. It's a tough. I don't know what to do when it seems so big and so
Yeah.
institutional. Like, how do you fix that? How do you make America How do you actually make America great again? Like,
Yeah.
what besides like the non, like the fake, all the stuff that they're just touting just because it's a great slogan, but like, how
Yeah.
do you actually make America great again?
Yeah. Make America
That's the
great
real
again is
question.
like the yes we can of the Obama era.
Yeah.
It's a vague
Like,
statement that like
doesn't everyone want America great again though?
yeah,
Like,
of course.
wouldn't you think so?
Yeah, and that's why it's the mantra itself works for its movement. Both sides of the situation see the other side as an existential threat.
Yeah.
Both and the thing is like that's a dangerous scenario, but what's the common point here is that all sides recognize that there is an existential threat going on here. But we're
Mm-hmm.
pointing at the other side of the fence saying that's the problem, when in reality we're like, who put this fence up here? What is this fence? What's the story with this fence? Yeah, they hate us because they're free, but rarely do we ask the question, okay, but what does freedom actually mean? Freedom is like make America great again, or yes we can. Free, yes, freedom, we love freedom. Yeah, I love freedom, but what does freedom really mean? Does it mean we get to go take whatever we want and do whatever we want in the world? Or does it mean living in some sort of state of balance where the true freedom is recognizing ourselves in the other, and that we can share and we can have like some sort of family here? If you're living in a dysfunctional family, your sense of freedom is totally skewed. It's like these very compartmentalized ideas that on their own make sense, but when you start to like connect them to everything else, it's like, oh shit, well, yes we can doesn't mean what we've been feeling when we say it. And same thing with make America great again. It's like, oh yeah, well that, and I hear that, I'm like, oh, I immediately think of like the right wing Donald Trump thing. But like you said, who doesn't really want America to be great? Like in America to be sustainable and thrive and all that. So
Right.
it's crazy.
It really is. It was very well put, by the way. But it's, I just don't know, which way is it actually going? That's the hard part for me, is like, which way is it actually going? I mean, the election will tell us a lot, obviously.
It's telling us a lot right now too. It's like it's
Yeah.
probably going to go all ways, and I think if you look at it in terms of it always like that was that Lupe Fiasco song two ways is it called? Like on the Lasers album. There's only
that sounds
two
right, yeah.
ways to go. It's like this way or that way, this way or that. It's like everything is in terms of this or that. That's like the complete everything. All of it comes down to that equation. But is it going to be from the top down? Is it going to be some sort of like person or group of people that have some sort of effect on the top and become a symbolic Batman? The symbol of Batman going to come in and save the day? Or Harvey
Right.
Dent, oh, he was a fucking scumbag, but we can't let the people know because of the symbol he represents. Or is it going to be a bottom down thing or a bottom up thing, like in the new Joker movie, where it was like you had the Bruce Waynes and the guys at the top, but then, they were like, kill the rich became the slogan. I mean, that's like just to keep it in the Batman metaphor for a second, there's that bottom up. Better example is you got the Matrix and you got V for Vendetta. You've got Neo, the one who saves the day ultimately, but then you got V for Vendetta where it's like, no, the guy who actually played Mr. Smith plays V, who's like everyone wears the same mask. It's a movement of all these people coming together that's going to bring down the top. So which one is it? Is it this one or that one? And it's like, if anything makes sense, it's like it's probably going to be both. There's going to have to be some sort of infiltration or, change within the infrastructure of the system politically. Yeah. And there needs to be some sort of grassroots movement that's not necessarily political, but just like people need to start working together and seeing each other as one, like to take that higher road of, like that guy that basically had conversations with Ku Klux Klan members, just like take the stand of not trying to engage in argument and fight the thing you're resisting, but instead, like Neo in the Matrix again, it's just like Neo and Mr. Smith have to become one in order for this thing to be resolved. Right. They have to come together, and so it's like it needs to happen on that level and on the top level, and I think it is. It's a crazy thing to watch in slow motion, though, man.
It is, and they always talk about this planet being like essentially, like the greatest show in the galaxy. Like people, I forget who, maybe it was Wilcock that said like there are people camped out like around Earth, cloaked, just like oh, watch this, man. Yeah, just like they got another election coming up. Just like it's got to be super entertaining if you're not like invested in it. But it is so wild, and I agree that it has to always be both. It can't just be the Neos. It can't just be the Bernie Sanders. It has to be coming from. They have to meet in the middle. Like it doesn't work if it just goes one way. It has to come together and then.
Right.
Yeah, from both sides. You have to have the perspective from both, because you can't just work your way up. All the people who know nothing about politics or the way that anything works on a higher up. All of a sudden they get the power. What are they going to do with it? They're going to fuck it up. You need somebody who's like, okay, I'm with you, but you need somebody like that's the elders. Like they need to tell the young guns like, okay, I appreciate your energy and your dedication and your passion in getting here, but don't do that or that or that. Those aren't going to get like. I understand why you want to do those things, but from our experience, those aren't effective, and they're gonna hurt you more than they're gonna help you. Yeah. But all these things, these are great. Let's do that. I also have an idea about how we can start implementing these things right away, and I know a guy who's worked in a situation like that before. Well, we can help you out, but you need the wisdom and the experience met with like the passion and the drive, and then together, if we are cooperative at that point, then it'll be like. I think that's the big allure of Bernie, right? Is that he's a man of the people, and the man of the people are always the most popular ones because the people fucking love him. But he's more willing. It seems like he's going to listen.
Yeah, I mean his slogan.
Yeah, let's fucking do that.
His slogan is not me, us.
Right.
That's like as opposed to Donald Trump, who's like, I will solve all of your problems. It's like, what are you talking about?
Right. Exactly. So that's the allure. Is like that no one's been listening to us for so long. That now all of a sudden it seems like there might be a guy that's actually like with us, and not just saying he's with us because he wants to get elected. Obviously he wants to get elected. He's seeking power. So he wants power, but because he thinks he can do the right thing with it. Yeah. Also, he's not going to be able to do what he wants if he does win. It's going to be another one of those things where it's too extreme, and there's going to be a lot of people in there that are going to be like, I get it, but you're not really going to be able to do that, at least not for the first 2 years. And as much as he's going to want to do it, there's just nothing in place unless everything kind of gets shifted around.
It has to keep happening. And for years, when elections would happen, like especially, I think we saw the very end of this era, but the idea of like, every 2 to 4 years there's election season and, You go and you hear this, hear the things they have to say. You see the signs on the street. You get into the ballot box. You make your choice. Then you go home, and whoever wins wins. And then these guys are like rats. They go back into their holes. You never see them again for like 4 years. And then they come back, and then it's like, all right, it's election season. Oh, what happened? Oh, change. All right, well, I like this guy. Or I don't like. It's like now with the way things are, it's like election season never ends. Like, especially since Donald Trump became president, it's like every fucking day has been like, all right, what are we doing now? What are we doing now? And the biggest indicator that things are changing is the 2018 midterm elections, because that's when all the like House and local and state level things were going down. And it was a record turnout. I mean, certainly not, there's certainly a huge voting block of people that don't go out, most of the people that don't go out. Because they can't, because freaking election day is on a holiday and they got to go to work. Interesting. That's something that needs to change right off the bat. But, now it's like, it changed like within that one election. There was such a huge turnout that the House became Democratic. And I highly doubt that this is going to stop. Right. People are going to continue to get more and more involved in the system and paying more attention. More and more people are doing that. And then there's a whole other generation of kids that are coming up. So, yeah, it's I imagine that first of all, if Bernie were to become president, he would put in good people. Like, I definitely trust that he would surround himself with people that are actually going to make a difference and represent good ideas. Not just not going to buy. He's not someone who's going to put people that are bought and sold into positions of power.
But you don't know.
But we don't know, of course.
You don't know, because it always changes.
Always changes when they bring him down.
We just can't know. And that's also another thing that we psych ourselves up about, like with Obama and everything. It's just like, oh, they're going to get in there and they got all these ideas. And then they get in there and it's like, what happened to all this shit you were talking? And it's like, sometimes you can't do it, and sometimes you have to. You have to like submit, and you have to be like, all right, well, if you want this, you're gonna have to put this guy in your cabinet.
That's true.
And it's a guy that you fucking hate, and you disagree with on everything. Be like, how the fuck could Bernie put Hillary Clinton in his cabinet? Like shit like that, or just like stuff like that's gonna happen.
We totally don't know. We totally don't know, but at least at this point, the probabilities at least at this point. Even comparing like Obama when he was running and like all the hopes and aspirations of what he was going to do, like things are a little bit different now with like transparency. So like we can see like we can like hindsight's 2020. We can go back and look, and like Obama was totally bought and paid for well before all that. We just were so tired of George W. Bush that it was like a completely different time. The internet was just starting to kind of emerge into a whole new fucking thing of its own. So like the probability of Bernie putting people in that are not going to be bought and sold, because that's his fucking MO, seems at least more high than if it was somebody else. And then the other thing too is, not only it would be him putting the people in charge, and of course things would change, but people are just so completely locked into like, we need things the way we want them done. And I lost my train of thought, but I just remember what it was. It was it's like trying to like recover from that. But like what Republicans have done, even though when they're in power, they do things without, even if there's a Democratic majority in the House or the Senate or something like that, they'll still like move things along without any question of the consequences of what those things are doing. Like, number one, raising the military budget. Number two, cutting taxes. Like, they have they're always like when Democrats decide to do something, it's like, oh, how are you going to pay for that? And then the Democratic Party, it's like, gets so fixed. Oh, well, we have to appease the Republicans. We have to write down how we're going to pay for this. But these fuckers, they don't ask how they're going to pay for this. They just cut the fucking taxes, and then the deficit goes up. And then when a Democrat becomes president, it's like, oh, well, look at the deficit. It's like, well, that's because of what you fucking people did. So they don't ask questions. when they cut things or when they do things, but the things they're doing are for the private self-interest. Both Democrat and Republican. Clinton was guilty of this just as much as, all the others. But the thing is, like, number one, Bernie Sanders pledging to cancel all student debt. That's a huge fucking thing to be running on. And then also on day one, making marijuana legal in all 50 states. Talk about two issues that are completely like understated in like the main issues: abortion, climate change, guns and all that stuff. These are two issues that like everybody is fucking down for by and large. Vast majority. Whether you're Republican or Democrat and you have a huge fucking student debt and we want to cancel it, that's going to bring people together. So
I agree.
I just, of course, we don't know what's going to happen, and Bernie could just, once, of course, if he becomes president, they bring him down to fucking, the deep underground bases, and they, here's our alien overlord, and, this is the plan, and like, his hair turns even whiter than it already is, and he shows up, but we can't tell because his hair was already right at the beginning. It's like, oh, Bernie Sanders exactly the same, but meanwhile, he's dead inside because he saw what's really going on, and suddenly now, like, oh, Joe Biden's going to be my vice president again, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, of course that could happen, but based on Bernie's integrity over the years and having a pattern of not succumbing to these fucking forces, by and large, is a higher probability of things changing on that level. Again, back to the original thing, it's not just going to take a Bernie Sanders or an administration or a government from the top down to make all the changes. So it's like it's like definitely the most like hopeful political thing that has happened in context of all the shit that's happened.
I definitely agree. Yeah, and it's Bernie's been on record for 40 years, like consistent in the way that he is. So it's not like, you're right. He has a track record, and this is how he does things. It's not like finally his dream come true. He makes it into the White House. He's just going to abandon his principles that is, which are pretty pure. You could tell they're genuine feelings from him. He's a very genuine guy. Yeah, it seems that way. So yeah, you're right. I was being, pessimistic about it. But now I'm even thinking like from the West Wing, like when Jimmy Smits gets elected, he was the guy who he was running against was obviously a Republican, and he still respected him a lot. And it was actually they were pretty cordial with each other because there's just a lot of respect. Yeah. And then I think when he got elected, Jimmy Smits, he made the other guy Secretary of State. Or I think he gave him like a very high profile position in his group, even though he was a Republican, because he's like, you are really good at all this stuff and you'd be really valuable. I could see Bernie doing something like that, like kind of instead of, another way to bridge the gap, because a theme of what we've been talking about, I think, is a lot of us versus them and the two sides that are really the same side. But if someone could make a gesture, like even having a vice president, like to say your vice president is a Republican or somebody very high up that really has influence from somebody across the aisle, like how big of a step would that be? I'm not sure if maybe that's been done before. I don't know if it's been done in recent times, but like that would be a huge thing if you're actually trying to unite people to be like, hey, I see you. I know I'm on this team and we hate each other, but do you want to come try to figure this stuff out together?
Yeah.
And I could see that happening, even if it is like a seasoned Republican veteran who everybody hates, but maybe he's really good at foreign policy or dealing with this situation, he'd have value. I mean, there's no doubt that there are valuable Republicans.
Absolutely.
That somebody would like to have in their cabinet, even if they're on the other side, Yeah. But since they're on the other team, it's like, oh, we can't pick that guy. He's on the other team. He's like, well, he's really fucking good. What he does, but he just happens to be wearing a different jersey. But we could pick him if we want to, but no, we don't like,
right,
X, Y, and Z. So that would be, I could see Bernie definitely. I don't know how easy that would be, or how much that would really fuck with people's integrity, or if the Republican Party was be like, don't even tell Bernie to fuck off. Tell him you don't want that position. To the guy who got the job offered, and he might be like, oh, I kind of do want that, but like maybe the party will just
and that's both sides. Both parties have those same limitations.
They do, yeah. Maybe hopefully this will kind of, like we've been saying, just we've what do we have here? When's the election?
This November.
This November, right? Yeah, so 9 months,
Yeah,
10 months. Um, a lot can happen.
a
Like you said,
lot can
election
happen.
season never ends. It basically just began. The final phase just began last night, essentially.
Hmm.
Iowa caucus is always kind of like the kickoff of
Yep.
the final act.
Yep.
So yeah, God knows what can happen, especially around the world, especially if Trump, senses that he's on his way out. What the fuck is he going to try to do? What kind
Yeah.
of wild shit? Like wild shit could just
Yeah.
like all of a sudden anything could just start popping off. Like Trump
Yeah.
did this, so he did that, and then he got arrested. And now he's in a helicopter, and they're over there, but they're signing a bill in the helicopter, and they're gonna
Yeah. Yeah.
down
It's
it,
just
have
like-
it on and someone's gonna come catch it.
Yeah.
They're gonna sign, they're gonna put it in the vault. It's like
Yeah.
who knows, man?
Anything
we
could
watched
happen,
too many
man.
Movies.
Well,
Fucking
no, but it's like the
Nicolas
life has
Cage
become
is
that
gonna,
movie.
like, steal the fucking whatever bill or the thing that they have to sign the president in on, so he can't
And
get
Nicolas Cage is
signed
being
for
sworn as the president of the United States. What?
it. I'm okay with it, but tell me how that
Wait, how
happened.
the hell did this happen? Last I checked, Trump wasn't going to leave, and now we can't find him.
For me, best case scenario is if Dwayne the Rock Johnson is elected. I've said it for a couple of years now, but I think best case scenario, Dwayne Johnson,
It could
president of the
happen.
United States.
It could totally happen. I mean,
Of course it
he's
can.
such a likable person, and he's a good
one of the
human
most
being.
well-liked people in the entire world.
Yeah, yeah.
Literally, his stock is probably higher than most people.
yeah. I mean, that is a really good scenario. And it can happen. It can happen. I mean, we're going. We're going through like a crazy chaotic time right now. Anything could happen. I mean, to the point where even with what happened last night and today with this caucus inconsistency, like, oh, we got to recount, blah, 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 it's like that could be grounds for, if this continues to happen and the general election happens and the results don't come in and Trump is just like, oh, well, there were inconsistencies, so I'm not leaving.
Yeah.
That was a void election. We'll wait another 4 years and we'll do it again.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck? That could totally happen.
Or even just delay it, like, oh, we're going to delay it 3 months.
Yeah.
Or, a month or a week, and then you could just, once that is opened, obviously, that can of worms, then yeah, who knows? But I mean, like you said, I'm ready for anything. I'm trying not to expect anything. I think that's, like we said, that's how you get let down. So, yeah, we'll see, man.
Yeah, but like that whole
what kind of change would that be if people actually got all the debt erased? Like, what would people go out? Like, would the morale obviously would be higher?
Morale would be a lot higher.
A weight lifted off of their life, but
I mean, I'm sure it would. In short term, stimulate the economy. In long term, it would stimulate the economy because really, we pay. I mean, the defense budget goes up all the time. We don't really have a choice in that. And we're paying for it. And where is that money going? Not to growth. It's going to protection. And we already have such a huge budget. It's like we're just funding a war machine, which destroys things. If we were to do the same thing of being like, look, we're going to make an executive decision to cancel this fucking thing. And suddenly, millions and millions of people in America will have to not have to pay like, $3,000 to $1,000 a month on student debt. What are they going to do with that money? Oh, maybe they'll start like buying a house, or they'll get the car they need to get so they can get to the next job.
Dude, for sure that would happen.
It would stimulate the economy 100%.
Especially our generation, like the people who are now like moving into adulthood, where the times where we would be buying houses, we're not doing it because a lot of us have that payment and that debt on us. And if all of a sudden that was just gone, for sure people would be like, fuck yeah, I'm buying a car, I'm doing the thing. Or it would be like, everyone's like, all right, I'm traveling for the States. They go to like Europe for like a month, and it's like, oh fuck,
all the money's leaving.
Fuck.
Yeah.
But no, of course it would stimulate the economy.
Yeah.
And so would weed, making weed legal.
Yeah, and that was what Bernie Sanders said in his speech last night. He said, like, on day one, it'll be legal. And immediately people could start opening up businesses to basically buy and sell marijuana legally. It's like, think about all the fucking business that would come from that.
Yeah, shit, you put a pie shop next door, you're in business.
Yeah, like this cannabis place. Holy shit, man. Like, that was like going to a weed store for the first time. I'm sitting in there, I'm just like, wow, like, Yeah, I'll get some French fries too. Just like, this is crazy. Like everybody's just
Yeah.
in there being super chill, and it's just like, wow. I mean that's a total. I mean that's how quickly things are changing.
Yeah, and I don't know if I'm sure it's been said already, but I don't know if sarcastically or in an Alex, but hindsight is
No, that I mean I said that in realizing that we're in 2020, but it
yeah.
was like I was gonna say it anyway, but it's just like, well, it's just extra true right now.
Are we in hindsight? Is that the age we're in, the age of
Yeah, the
hindsight?
age of hindsight. I mean, well, yeah, we're reviewing
Perfect vision.
perfect vision. Yeah, we're
You
starting
can
to
see
see the
clearly
world for what
now.
it really is, and a
I have
lot of
never
the
even thought about that.
yeah, it's crazy.
Just 2020 with the association with
Oh
vision.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that
dude,
makes a
there's
lot of
a
sense.
there's a show on Amazon. I don't know if I talked with you about it, but it's called The Boys. Have you heard about this?
Someone just told me about that 2 days ago, and she
Really?
spoke very highly.
Oh God, dude. Yes, it is so good. One of my
I
favorite
was just thinking
shows.
about it, like when I was eating. Before, oh, maybe I should. I don't have enough time.
It's good. It's really good, and it touches on so many of the topics we've discussed here today in terms of the system and the who's in charge and the us versus them and the we're creating our own enemies and the who's involved and it's so great. It's like such a great show that goes into all this stuff. But the reason I think I brought it up this time is because even the TV shows and the media that we're ingesting now, it's like we already reached a pinnacle of best technology. Like, you can have a TV show on ABC that the CGI looks amazing.
Yeah,
It's not about getting better and better. I'm sure it can and it will. But it's getting to the point where people can't even tell the difference, or something looks amazing and people are like, it looks like shit, because it's like we're so completely overwashed with great stuff. But the thing that hallmarks, I think, the media that's out now and the stuff that's going to continue to come out is the content and the stuff that we're seeing. It's getting us to look at our past and things that have happened in a completely different way. There's a documentary on HBO, a series that just started about McDonald's called McMillions, and it's about the Monopoly game. That back in the '90s there was a huge fraud. There were like only 3 or 4 people won the $1 million in the entire 1990s, and it was like all people in the same family, and it was this big fraud.
uh,
But it's like we're going back, and I had no idea. I vaguely remember hearing about that, but it's like this thing. It's like we go back and see an institution that was hacked, that was infiltrated, and you got these FBI guys that are going in trying to solve the mystery. And it's hilarious too because like they have no bigger spoiler alerts, but they have a sit down. The FBI's like, we need to talk with the McDonald's leadership. So they send like 3 or 4 guys from McDonald's and they're like, don't tell anybody you're coming. It's this like secret meeting with the FBI and McDonald's, like top 3 people or whatever. And they tell the McDonald's people and they show them what happened. And they were just like shocked. They had no idea. And they're like, no one can tell anyone outside this room about this, because if word gets out, there could be somebody working for McDonald's that once they find out what we're doing, they'll be able to change their tactics. We want to catch them in the act. So again, it's like that spotlight thing. It's like we can't tell
yeah.
anybody. And the question is do we run the McDonald's event? Do we run the Monopoly event again, knowing that there's fraud? This could totally put McDonald's reputation down forever if they run a thing that they knew was a fraud and that gets out. But then if they stop it because they knew it was a fraud, it's like a big rock and a hard place thing.
Yeah,
But it's
wow.
like certain knowledge had to be contained in order for this greater outcome of finding people and holding them accountable. So it's like that theme in itself throughout a lot of movies. It's starting to review this narrative of who are the good guys, who are the bad guys. Is that the case? Like, is it the way that we've always thought it was, or is there something else that we missed?
Hmm.
And this is definitely a year for that.
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh man, I mean that goes back to The Wire too. Like they would always try to, in the opposite way, that division that they were in, where they were, major crimes unit. They were, always building cases, but the top brass wouldn't be able to see the long game And they'd be like, well, just can you make a bust now? That's the drug house. Let's get that one. Let's go. We'll film it and we'll get in there. We'll put drugs on the table, guns on the table, and we'll be like, all right, we did it. We made a bust. And everyone in the division's like, we can't do it now. We're working up to, we're seeing where it goes, and we pretty much think it leads all the way up here, and that's the beginning of it, the root of this systemic. And if we can stop it up here, then we can stop all this down here. And the top guys are like, no, it's been taking too long. I got breathing down my neck. We got all this money coming in, and we results. We need to go in there, and we need to fucking just get the bad guy right now. Get whichever one you want. Maybe we can make him roll on the guy up. And they're always like, he's not going to roll on the guy up. This is how they work. This is like their code. They're not going to tattletale on people. They'll go to jail because they feel like that's just part of the lifestyle. So, that seems to be a reoccurring theme. Like you said, what we're talking about. It's like, do we make a move now, or do we keep it going so we can find out more information? Because I think we have yet to properly identify the real issue collectively. Like, we haven't, as the United States people, haven't really honed in on what the issue is. Like, we're always like kind of flipping around to say it's you and them, and like we've said, we've kind of identified all the common bad guys, but like I feel like we really haven't identified the problem.
Yeah.
And then once we agree what where the problem actually comes from, then we can do something and start focusing on the issue instead of the causes, the repercussions of the issue.
Right.
It's like Uncle Bruce always says, it's like when you're treating the symptom instead of you're treating the disease. Like painkillers don't mend your leg; they just make the pain a little less. So you still want to get your leg fixed.
Yeah.
Just because you got painkillers doesn't mean your leg is. So that's all we've been doing. And if we have the patience and we have the 2020 vision, hopefully to see things now, I think there's a lot of potential for that. And elections are always very telling about everything. So yeah, we're going to learn a lot about what the Democrats, think and perceive, and if they're willing to do anything to get back in the seat, like anything, or they're still going to try their old tactics, or
the establishment.
What the Republicans are going to do. Yeah.
It's like the establishment both times.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But what are they going to do? Do they sense? Are they even scared at all right now? Or are they still just like such cocky bastards that they're like, we'll be fine. We'll just do. Here's the game plan. Pull it out of the drawer again. Run down the list. Let's do all these things. It works. It's worked 100 times. Let's do it again.
Yeah.
And it could work again. Who knows?
And it's also like hubris too, because it's like it's like a magician who does a really great magic trick, and then you're watching it and you go, ooh, do it again. And then they're like, all right, I'll do it one more time. And then they do the same exact magic trick over a second time. But now you're looking for things that you weren't looking for before. And that's one of the top rules in like the Magician's Code is you never do the same trick twice for the same group of people right after each other. You just don't do that, because there's that video of the you've seen with the moonwalking bear. Like, just count how many times the basketball is tossed between the white team and the black team, and you're watching the basketball and you count like 13 times. And it's confusing. So you think that's the issue. It's like, oh, it's going to be tricky to see. So you're just trying to pay attention to that basketball. But then the thing is like, yeah, but did you see the moonwalking bear? And you're like, what the fuck, moonwalking bear? You watch the same clip, and right in the middle of all that, there's a fucking guy dressed as a bear doing the moonwalk. And it's like, wait a minute, was that there the first time? And it was. We just weren't looking for it. So it's like with the DNC and what they're doing now, it's totally that moonwalking bear scenario. Like they're doing the same trick again in the age of the internet, where maybe back during the C-SPAN only days, like, oh yeah, they can get away with all sorts of shit. Like, I don't think Hillary Clinton and all those people, or Lindsey Graham, they knew that people would be able to, in the distant future, go back and rewatch C-SPAN. Like, who tapes C-SPAN? No one tapes. No one will ever see this again. It's like now it's like the impeachment. Lindsey Graham will go up there and say, like, I can't believe this. High crimes and misdemeanors are no big deal. And be like, well, let's cut to the tape of you saying the complete opposite during the Clinton impeachment. And he's like, high crimes and misdemeanors are the biggest deal. And it's like, wait a minute. Like, what the fuck? It's like, these things do not line up. So
Yeah, and they can't deny that now. You're right, and so we're looking for it, and we got so many different phones and our actual eyes, and like you said, when now we're seeing the trick again, and we're looking for how it like the symptoms of the trick. It's like, okay, well, they put their hand in their pocket. I didn't see that last time. So what are they doing over there?
yeah.
That's the same move. Oh, they're doing that with they're trying to rally people behind this person by making this person look bad, or like just the same
And
same
their hands,
blueprints.
like their cards are not working as well. Like, all
No,
right,
no.
we'll use the Joe Biden card again, and it's like, dude, you already
Yeah.
used the Joe Biden card like 3 times. Like, how many times is you gonna fucking play the same card and expect different results? It's like, all right, well, we got a wild card, we got the Bloomberg card, and it's like fucking Bloomberg
Yeah.
card. That card's like a piece of shit. It's like
Yeah. It's not even a
Bloomberg.
card.
It's not even a
You just
card.
like
It's
take a
like
couple of things together.
yeah,
Yeah,
be like,
it's
yeah,
not
but
even a
we got
fucking
Bloomberg.
card.
It's like, wait, that's not a fucking card. You can't play with that. Like, yeah,
It's
I
just a
know, it's
dollar bill.
regulation. I got a lawyer.
One
This will
dollar
tell me.
bill.
Yeah, don't tell me.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
That's not a card. Just take it.
Yeah, just take it. But it's a card if you want it to be. Like, but I don't fucking want it to be.
I'm gonna run to the bathroom real quick, but just so in this situation, what you can comment when I get back in 2 seconds is what. So what does the magician do when they feel like their trick
Oh yeah.
like is failing, or if the people have seen it? Like, is there like do they modify their behavior or try to change it on the fly? Because I feel like that because we're
Yeah.
using this metaphor that would kind
Yeah.
of maybe tell us what.
All right,
Right.
I'll keep that in mind. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, the State of the Union.
What are you watching?
It's the State of the Union, dude.
This is happening now.
Right now, live.
Wow.
That's crazy.
It's
Yeah,
a great looking feed.
Yeah, man.
It's a C-SPAN feed. Oh, it's just on YouTube.
Yeah, YouTube, C-SPAN, I think. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. Of course, we were just talking about all you guys.
Yeah. Fancy seeing you here.
They're just cheering for everything we've been saying. So when it comes to magicians,
is there like a tactic? Yeah, is there a tactic for magicians?
yeah.
If they,
Let
or if something goes wrong, like if you drop something accidentally, or
me pause this. Just wanna... Yo, yeah, they're definitely. I actually have there's a magician that I follow on YouTube. This guy named Chris Ramsey, who has a lot of great videos where he'll review magicians, like review magic, like worst magic, best magic. He solves puzzles and stuff. Really, really cool magician. Great at sleight of hand. And he had one video where he talked about like, how to, the ideal ways as a magician to recover from a trick that is not going well versus, how you should not do it. Some of the ways you shouldn't do it is first of all, you never say, oh, wait, let's say you're doing like something, you're halfway through it and then you fuck up. You don't ever say, oh, wait, hold on, forget that. Let me start over.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ever do that.
Yeah.
As like the most extreme, because it's all very situation specific as well. So depending, like, let's say you get a heckler who's always asking you like, hey, let me see that card, or they're trying to grab the cards out of your hand. You know, generally a good magician in those circumstances will roll with it. They'll try to finish the trick, and let's say they fuck up, they'll Thor, shh, Thor, no, don't do it, Thor, shh, hey, it's okay, buddy, it's okay, hey, shh. Thor. Good boy. So
Well, it's like you want to maintain the illusion of, right? Like everything that happens is on purpose, and I'm okay with everything that's happening.
Yeah, another good way to do it. I think the best way to do it is a good magician will have a plethora of techniques. Let's say you're working with a deck of cards. You know a whole bunch of different techniques and moves to be able to do separate tricks. Like usually one magic trick is a combination of several different techniques that are done in a certain way. And let's say you fuck up somewhere in the middle, and let's say it's like, here, let me pick a card. Okay, is this your card? And it's not the card. A good magician will have, instead of going back and trying to start over, they'll just completely disclose that they screwed up on the trick. But in that presentation, immediately go into another trick to try to make it seamless. If you fuck up, you try to you make it known that you kind of fucked up, but you work in another trick which has a punchline at the end, so that it's not like you don't want to be left as like, oh, you screwed up, because then they won't want to watch another trick after that.
Right. And then you can almost make it seem like that was part of the trick.
Exactly, make it seem like
pull off the end trick, then it kind of makes it seem like that was just part of the journey on the trick. Is, oh, you thought I fucked up, but really I didn't.
Yeah, right. Like a good example for me with this one is there's a trick I do called Triumph, where I have a deck of cards and I have you pick a card, and then I have you put it into the deck into a random place. I shuffle a deck, and then I tell you the story. And here's another thing too, is that the trick, and you'd be aware of this too, is that a good magic trick is not really the trick itself, it's the presentation, the story that goes with the trick. The story is what really makes the trick awesome. Anybody can do the technical thing, but it's the story that goes with it. So anyway, I did this thing, have them put the card back into a random place, and then I take the card, looks like I shuffle them up face up into face down. And the cards look completely mishmashed, face up into face down. I do a couple little magic moves, and then I spread the deck open, and the one card that's face up now, all of them are back to normal, except the one card is your card. That's like the trick. But there have been a few times where I would do that trick, and I would screw up somewhere in the middle, and when I'm like, and now I just do the magic move, and I show you every single... as I'm going through now, there's not just one card. There's like 6 or 7 cards that are face up in the deck. So it's like I'm building up to say, and there is only one card amongst these cards face up. And I really feel like I fuck up here, but thank God one of those cards was theirs. And it's like, oh my God, that was my card. And I'm like, that's right. And they're like, how'd you do that? I'm like, yeah, it's only 6 cards showed up face up. And so one of them happened to be yours. It's like, so like, that's a perfect example of the story. Okay. Was able to, if you give off the impression that you fucked up, then that really ruins everything. So you got to play it. You got to roll with the punches a lot of times on that.
Interesting. Okay. That is interesting. That makes sense. Because you're putting on a show, right? Like you said, the presentation. It's a magic show. It's not just magic. You're going to see a magic show.
Yeah.
And then you have the assistant. Classically, it's what you think about. You're dressed up. They're looking real fancy. It's a whole fucking production. It's a play.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's essentially what the fucking government is, and the elections especially is a big play.
Yeah. And these guys have been. I mean. They're like any showman, like Donald Trump being like a showman of all showmen, especially at this point, game show host. Think of like a magician, or no, here's a good example. Here's a really good example. There are those mind reading, like religious people that have a huge congregation and they're like, I'm going to speak to Jesus. Jesus is asking for a woman named Sandra. Is there Sandra in the audience? Then Sandra, I'm Sandra. I'm like, oh, Jesus is telling me your father, is it? Your father has cancer. Oh my God, my father has cancer. And it's like they have this whole thing where, it ultimately results in like, some sort of like, big, like you're healed or he's healed. And then everyone's like, ooh, wow, how did they know that? And, they're making a lot of money from this. Meanwhile, they have like a little earpiece with somebody in the back who ran their credit card number and found all their information out and was feeding the information to them. So it was a complete con. Mm-hmm. And they're taking all the money. And these go on for a long time. People believe in it, but then somebody comes in and fucking exposes everything. And then what happens? Right. Everyone's like, I don't fucking believe this guy anymore, and I want my money back. It's like, that's kind of like what we're dealing with right now, where these showmen have been doing the same trick over and over again, and now they're trying to do the same shit, and it's like, and we're all like, fuck this is bullshit. It's like, you're a liar, you're not true. It's just like the Wizard of Oz. It's like, you're full of shit, you're not.
Yeah, but it's instead of like one person these days. Yeah, for a lot of people it is Donald Trump, but I think even they realize just Donald Trump.
No,
it's
right.
The whole big thing. Whereas before it used to be Bush or Clinton, a lot more confined aggression. Now, it's more and more broad, and in that way, Bernie Sanders seems like the perfect like hero for the story. He's been around forever. He looks like he's been around forever. He's fucking passionate. He's looks like a crazy guy. Looks like Doc Brown. Looks like Larry David. Like all of these like symbols and all the things he's saying. Of course he's going to say, I'm going to make weed.
Thor, shush. Thor. Just the Thor. Shh. Thor, come here.
Thor.
Sorry, there's like a dog like screaming.
Hey, buddy.
Hey, buddy. Come say hi.
Hey, buddy. Oh. Look what I got. I got one of those too. Oh.
Look.
Oh, Thor, look, it's your future roommate. Hey.
He's like, where?
He's looking up. He's like, what the fuck?
Over there. Isabel. Oh, now Isabel wants to see. Come here.
Okay.
Aw, Abigail. Yeah, Isabel.
Okay.
Look, Isabel.
Look. No.
I think she sees her.
Okay. I mean, she kind of looks like Bernie Sanders. Everyone looks like.
Yeah.
So it's if it is kind of set up perfectly for him, especially now, after getting screwed the last election, Bernie, by his own party.
What are you doing? Sorry, she's like, I don't even know what she's doing. She's like barking at the
What's she doing?
Yeah, no, you're right. Yes. He
just seems. He seems perfect for it because like it's built into the whole story. Like if this was his first election, it might not be as much, but because of what happened with Hillary Clinton.
Hold on one second.
Yeah,
guys,
sure.
What are you doing? Hold on one second.
Yeah, I'll be right back too.
Get out there. Stay. Isabel, stop. Shh. It's okay. Stop. Hey. the State of the Union is crazy.
Yeah.
No, it's just usually they come out and they're like, everything is good. Everybody cheers.
Yeah.
When has that ever been true? But like back to the magician's metaphor thing, something else that is like totally pointed with now, it's like that happens after a magic trick where the audience will be like, how did you do that? And they won't stop pestering you and be like, no, I'm not leaving you until you tell me how that trick was done. And it's like these Illuminati guys are the people like, having the plan. They, in their best case scenario, they will be thanked for what they've done.
Yeah.
And it's like, question is that really what's going to happen? Is that practical? Is that realistic? Like after this whole thing, people are like, oh, you know what? You were right. Thank you for getting us to this point. They're going to be like, no, how the fuck did you do that? Mm-hmm. How the fuck did you do that? And it's like, we can't tell you. It's the magician's code. It's all secrets. It's like, it's a lot to ask for.
Yeah. We're not going to just be like, oh, okay, and then turn around and leave. We're going to be at the point where we're going to be like, no, we demand, tell us. And then we're just going to keep doing it, and it'll have to be dealt with. Because clearly they're out of touch with reality. Like, so they're expecting us to behave one way, be grateful, but really we're not going to, they don't know us. They don't know shit about us. Like everything that they try to do and that pull on us, like if they think that we honestly all believe all that shit, then they are just, there's no way they're predicting the outcome correctly, because all the things they're doing are what they think would be good.
Yeah.
And clearly we have different opinions about how things should go. Most people feel differently about how we should spend our money and what's really valuable to our society. So yeah, of course they're probably expecting us to like give them, all the praise and thanks, when really we're not leaving the theater until you tell us. We lock the door.
Yeah.
We have people on the outside. You're not going anywhere until you fucking tell us.
Yeah.
And they're like, wait, oh no.
It'll be like that Game of Thrones Khaleesi scene where they like lock, she locks herself in with the calls from the Dothraki, and then she's like, fuck you guys, I'm taking charge now. And they're like, and then she just like burns the fucking place down.
Right. Yeah.
Like, yeah, they're it's they're
arrogant as fuck. And they think they're invincible, and that'll obviously be an issue when shit happens.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like, do you feel like they're threatened of Bernie, or do you think he seems like harm? Yeah,
big time. Bernie is a threat to them because they, like the Democratic establishment, are bought and paid for by a lot of the same guys that the right-wing people are bought and paid for by. Yeah, fossil fuel industry, pharmaceutical industry, Wall Street, all these guys. Like, it doesn't matter who it is. They've got the We Say So Corporation who own these people. And Bernie Sanders represents the actual people. Like, the fact that he has the largest grassroots movement of donors ever in America compared to the way it has been, where you have like a handful of people that donate tens of millions of dollars and shit, big money. It's like, you do what the people with the money tell you what to do. They give you money because that means it's like, okay, well, we'll give you this money if you help us out. And Bernie Sanders he's not obligated by any of these people, like the pharmaceutical companies and the insurance companies, like the two biggest ones, fossil fuel industry as well. But I think the biggest one is the insurance companies, the fraud and the corruption and the greed that has been driving that. So like if you listen to MSNBC especially, they're probably the ones that go after Bernie the hardest. And ironically, they're on the left. They're very much threatened by him, and that's why it was harder to distinguish when Hillary was running. It was because they wanted her. It was like, it was like he was in the way of her getting there. But it wasn't just that, and that's what this time is showing, especially, is that it's not just one particular candidate that they're in the way for. It's like, no, he threatens the power and the money that these people that should be paying their fair share are not. And who ends up paying the bill? It's the average American. So yeah, he's a huge threat to them.
Good. It's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, if he was part of the plan all along by these guys, then they would have been fucking easing him. You know, they would have been creating backdoors and pushing and idolizing him, pushing him up there.
Yeah.
Because that's like back to what you were saying is these people are so out of touch. They think all it takes is money, and like you can just like put the money in there and you invest in the guy, and money will get you to where you need to go. But Bernie Sanders is a guy who's like, I don't want your fucking money. I don't want your fucking money. So that's really hopeful as well.
Yeah, like it's their only way to get people, unless they get real nasty, you know, threatening other parts of their lives. But yeah, it's like they buy people. Like that's the easiest way to do it. I gave you $10 million, you owe me this, so do it. And they have that over their head, and that's their relationship. If you got nothing on Bernie, it's like, well, he didn't shit,
Yeah.
and I can say fuck off. I can say that because there's nothing else to it. So it depends how nasty they want to get, you know. And I'm sure if he does win the pardon me,
God bless you.
if he does win, thank you. If he does win the nomination, like, well, it'll be interesting to see how far they really go, you know. Because if he really is threatening their way of life and their system, you know, they won't hold back,
Yeah.
and that'll be really interesting
Yeah.
to see. And but wasn't it even hasn't Trump kind of not praised Bernie but like said positive things about him?
Yeah, I mean, he has said he was right when he says
I mean,
that.
maybe not recently, but
Yeah, I mean, but and sometimes recently, like of course now Trump is calling him like Commie Bernie or Communist Bernie or Comrade Bernie or whatever. Yeah, he's a communist, you know. But like
that's another old trick.
whole nother trick that they're gonna try to smear him with on that, you know. But then but Trump has said on multiple occasions the true fact that the Democratic Party has cheated Bernie, and it's true, they fucking did. They absolutely did. And it's not a conspiracy theory to suggest that, but I don't think Trump says that because he's trying to be nice to Bernie. I think Trump is saying that strategically for the people that maybe would have been for Bernie, like Jamie, that were for Bernie, that were like, so once he endorsed Hillary Clinton, as like saw that as a huge betrayal, to the point where they're like, all right, fuck, this side of the story is fucked up. I'm gonna go to the other side. Must have been right. Oh, I was taking the blue pill. I should have took the red pill, or vice versa. And now it's like the complete opposite. Like,
I feel like that's the reason. Because I met people that did that too. They were about Bernie. Once Bernie was gone, it makes sense to me why people would go from Bernie to Trump, at least during the last election. Like if Bernie's not an option, I'm going to Trump, because they both represented something that was different than what has been going on. And that was literally mostly what people wanted. It's like as soon as he endorsed Hillary, it's kind of like, well, this guy's fucking compromised. Yeah. And I don't want her because she's same old story. Then I think that's why Trump won the election, is because those people in between, instead of that would have voted for Bernie, were like, fuck Hillary, fuck the Democratic Party, like you just said. I'm going to go over here because this guy's saying something different. At least
he was saying
whatever the things, you know, he's being a real person. There's a reason why he got elected.
Oh yeah,
is because he had certain things that people were drawn to.
He made promises, the words that were coming out of his mouth as a salesperson, like a salesman. You'll say whatever you need to say to sell your product, even if you don't really mean half of the shit.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if you mean it.
And that's the biggest thing that a lot of people were duped on. Like my dad especially, you know, like that was exactly his narrative. He was like, oh, well, I fucking hate Hillary, so I'm going to vote for Trump because Trump is saying all the things that he's going to get us out of the wars in the Middle East. He said fucking Bush, you know, he took on the Republic. That was one of the things I liked about Trump in terms of his campaign during 2015 and 16, when he was up on stage with all those other Republicans and Jeb Bush and Ted Cruz and all those guys. He took on the Republican Party. He was like, you're all a bunch of fucking idiots. You know, you're all full of shit. You know, it's like that. Like, I would love to see Bernie do more of that. Like, because that's really what's going on here. Of course, he's not as much of a crass person. He's not crass at all compared to Trump. But that's the thing, is people were like, oh, Trump is saying all the things we should do. And, you know, ultimately, he's a con man. And he's just as much bought and paid for as all the rest. You know, maybe not to the same particular people, but to the same industries. And he's embellishing himself with the whole thing. So
Right.
it's like a lot of people, I think, realize that now too. Like a lot of people, evangelical Christians always vote Republican because of the pro-life issue. And a lot of people thought Obama was the Antichrist. But like my Uncle Jim, who's evangelical, he was like, I'm starting to realize maybe Donald Trump's the Antichrist. And I'm like, well, I mean, if you want to vote for him based on a religious principle, if he's going around saying he reads the Bible and he acts the way he does, how do you reconcile that shit? Yeah. I think the most common people are like, it doesn't reconcile. We don't want this. No. So anybody that can bring the party together, and Bernie and Tulsi are the only two people, like, really, that open the door and conversation to the other side of the aisle. Like, they'll go on, like, they went on Fox News. Like, Elizabeth Warren was like, I refuse to go on Fox News because they're propaganda. And it's like, well, you're basically just saying to all the people that watch Fox News that they're just a bunch of, assholes, basically.
Right.
How's that going to help your chances of getting elected? It's not.
Right. If anything, you're going to reach people that you wouldn't have otherwise reached because you're on a different network.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
Did you see that Bernie Sanders town hall on Fox News that happened last year?
No,
dude.
I remember that it backfired. I heard that on them, right? Like, not on Bernie. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
I still haven't seen it, no.
It's great. It's great, I mean, it was like daytime Fox, so it was a little bit more fair. It wasn't as, crazy as Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson, but still, like, again, goes to show that most Americans are all on the same page, all want virtually the same thing. And anyone that can give a voice to that, I think that's really what we're seeking for right now. What we really need, the thing that will set us free, is the truth. It's like with all this fake news stuff, with all the phonies and corruption and the money and all that stuff. It's like same reason why people don't want Joe Biden, or the same people don't even want Trump, or think they thought they wanted Trump, but it's, people want the truth. And then you got Barnhart, who's like, you can't handle the truth. And then you got Tom Cruise, who's like, I do Dianetics and I'm a Scientologist and I know more truth than you do. I was given the Scientology handbook when I was walking the dogs the other day.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's called the Key to Happiness, and by L. Ron Hubbard. I read part of it. A lot of it's like, the key to happiness is realizing that, like, you need to brush your teeth 2 times a day, and it's like very basic, mundane stuff. And some of it's like very judgmental. It's like, if you see somebody that's sick, you need to go and forcibly tell them that they're sick and that they should go to a doctor. L. Ron Hubbard's a really strange writer. But yeah. Anyway, a little tangent there.
Yeah, well, I think Barnhart was right about us not being able to handle the, or like we talked, that was true. But I think they are out of touch with reality, and they would still have that perception. They'd be like, if you only knew, we can't even tell you. Like, even if they got to that point, they're like, we would tell you, but you can't. Like, it's not something you want to hear. Just, guys, we're just looking out for you. But I think, honestly, collectively, we can. At this point, we're so oversaturated and desensitized and heard everything and saw everything that we can handle the truth now. Like, I think we can. I think we're at the point where we, so just give it to us. Give it to us. We're not going to be, a lot of it's probably going to be shocking, but we're not going to, like, become paralyzed or, just faint.
No.
Understand, I think we are at a point where we can fucking handle the truth. So give me the truth, Bernie. Give me the truth, Bernie.
And dude, Jeff,
say it.
Just say it. I'm going to tell you the truth when no one else would. You think it's the year 2020, but in fact, it's 1999. It's, I think a good, like, litmus test of the fact, like, people want and already kind of know the truth. Like, we're past the point of having to be told the narrative for us to, like, blah, 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 blah. Oh, okay. Blah, 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 blah. It's like Jeffrey Epstein, that whole thing, the way that went down. And he fucking, everyone pretty much agrees. Like, he killed himself. They told him, he was, no, he didn't kill himself. He was murdered. And it was like, everyone was like, he killed himself. And people are like, no, he fucking didn't.
Yeah,
Doesn't
right.
matter what the fuck political stance you have. Everyone fucking agrees. Like, yeah, we all know the truth at that one.
Yeah,
And it's like, and then what is
of
that?
course.
What? It's like, regardless of mass arrest, just that one thing coming to light shows you that the royal families, the all recent presidents, you name it, they're all fucking involved in this shit. And it's like,
Which
if
is why it's not being pursued aggressively. That's
yeah,
also telling us something. It's like it's just not a priority.
yeah,
It's like, oh, well, that man, it's like, so how they're yeah, who what names are popping up, and also how it's being dealt with on the highest levels tells you everything you need to know.
yep,
Is that it's something that they're part of and that they don't want anyone else to know about,
yeah,
and it's a way of life. It just kind of, as we're learning from all aspects, from Spotlight, from Harvey Weinstein, like this is just kind of how they run. It's fucking rape and war. Like
yeah.
that's it. Rape and war and production of goods, or not,
Production of
but not,
yeah,
but that's how they get shit done.
yeah,
Aggressive, and not cooperation, domination. That's their thing. We're going to dominate this thing. Like Uncle Bruce would talk about the perspective of wanting to dominate nature instead of being cooperative with nature is really changing your relationship with those things. Changes how the entire world. If you're working with something, then it won't die, and you'll reap the benefits of its fruit, and it'll reap the benefits of your skills and everything else that you bring to the table. But now it's just like
nope,
they think that they can still fucking rape everybody
yeah, get away with
physically
it.
and get away with it because they have been for so.
Yeah, well,
It's like you said, people aren't even we're not even like we know the truth already, but we don't know the truth.
yeah,
But when something like Epstein happens, yeah, it doesn't matter who you pray to or who you vote for. When you hear the circumstance of who this guy was, where he was, he was accused of, and then in his jail cell
yeah.
somehow was able to, all these things happen at one time, and he was able to kill himself. It's just like,
No,
okay.
no,
Just
completely. That's like if you were a detective, you're not going to, or in the FBI, even like that McDonald's documentary. It's like when you're working in my line of work, coincidences, there really aren't such thing as coincidences anymore.
Right.
It's like, yeah, of course. And what was the best, a really perfect on the nose thing? The most on the nose thing about all this was that episode of House of Cards with Kevin Spacey. Did you see that? Like in the last season he was in, where they did like the Bohemian Grove thing.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like fucking Bohemian Grove, and then it's Kevin Spacey, who's there, president of the United States, and he turns around, and he's like, "It's all real." He looks right in the looks right in the fucking camera, like, "Yes, that's true. This really happens." And it's like, what, a month later, fucking Kevin Spacey is Me Too'd for being like a rapist or a sexual predator or whatever. It's like, huh, wow, what a coincidence. The guy that played the president was at Bohemian Grove in this secret place, told me it's all true, and then in real life he got arrested. Huh.
Yeah.
Weird. It's like we're being shown and told the truth. So like how deep will it go? I mean
I think it really depends just how we react to it. And that'll determine everything. React everything for the next year, from now until the next president or the same president is. How we react to everything really, really will dictate how everything. If we go crazy and all this stuff, if we react differently and more calmly, I think that will change the whole show. It's just a matter of if we can do that. If we can get, if Bernie's up there, if he is nominated, when would he be officially nominated for?
Probably.
I guess after the convention.
Yeah, at the convention is when he would get the official nominee. Which
so I feel like if we can have some, some uniter, like we've talked about, if we can have somebody be like, everyone chill out. Let's be smart about it and have a tactic through the next phase of this world. Like, let's try to keep this in mind. Let's behave this way instead of that way, because they're not expecting that.
Right.
And they don't know how to deal with it. So if we do really want to be successful, let's change our tactics. We have to do it together. Like in a war, if you send out factions to do certain things on other ends of the battlefield, each one of them has to trust that the other one's going to do what they said they're going to do. Otherwise, the
Yeah.
maneuver won't. So everybody has to trust that everybody else is going to do their job. But we all have to get on the same page first.
Yeah.
So if we can get someone to get us on the same page, whether it's Tulsi or whoever, and we can just be like, this is how we're going to do it. All right. If we're on the same team, let's do it this way, because
Yeah.
this is the most constructive way to do it. If we want to be like, we have so many examples of what doesn't work. Let's not, we've knocked so many of them off the belt. It's like, all right, that one doesn't for 100 years.
Yeah.
Let's try something just a little bit different.
Yeah.
Crazy, a little different.
And
I think that'll make all the difference.
That's absolutely recognizing again that of course there's always going to be disagreement. I mean, have everyone agree on everything at the same time. That's a little bit of too much of a 1984 type, just as scary as everything is being divided as much it is. But
right.
there we need to have some sort of positive example of us working together and seeing past all this and recognizing what the common enemy is. And, again, it's always been this narrative, the common enemy's out there somewhere. And back to one of these things you were saying before, it's like they don't really like the people that are influencing and pulling strings, investing in this whole machine. They don't really know who we are, how we think. They can't predict how we think because our thinking is changing so much because of the technology and the technology makes us think in different ways, and it's just they can't catch up with that. They can predict the programs that they've installed into our subconscious minds, and the thing is we'll default to the subconscious mind when we are in fear, when we are under stress. So their best tactic at this point is to keep people confused, in fear, and under stress. That way we just completely react. We're in a reactive state. And like you were saying, we need to recognize here is that we need to, before we react, we need to ask ourselves and just command our situation here, command ourselves to stop, don't react.
Yeah.
Take a breath first. All it takes is that one breath, like in the Sixth Sense, or was it not Sixth Sense? Or The Shining, turn the other way and count to 10. Something scary comes up in front of you. Don't get freaked out. Just close your eyes, take a breath, count to 10. When you open your eyes, they'll be gone. By and large, that happens. So if we start doing that more and more, then they don't have control. They can't predict what we're going to do next.
Mm-hmm.
They've got such an intricate network of programs that all depends on us being under stress. If we can reduce stress, if we can eliminate the fear in our minds about all of these things, then we have a much higher advantage of being successful in this whole scenario.
Agreed.
Hold on one second. I'm gonna grab a drink real quick.
Okay.
All right,
and your audio is starting to cut in and out a little.
Is it? All right. Let me.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe it's a mic. Hold on. I'll try it when I come back.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Sure. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, it was cutting out before on your side.
Was it?
Can you hear me now?
Still kind of doing the same thing.
Oh, it's still doing the same thing. Let's see. I wonder what's causing that. Let me try this. All right. Audio. Ta da 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 ta da da da. Ta-da. Ta-da. Is it working now?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go with that. All right.
Yeah. It just cut out again.
Okay, I didn't say anything.
Oh.
Yeah. Is it working now?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Yeah. It seems to be better.
All right, cool. Cheers
Uh, Cheers, man.
to the State of the Union.
Yeah. Just solving the world's problems real
Yes.
casually on the podcast.
Yeah.
But I think we've addressed a big point though is the attitude. Like stress is basically what you're saying is like that's kind of the enemy at this point because we have the truth, we have a person who we think could take us forward. We have community, we have grassroots, we have voter turnout, we have all this stuff, and we're fighting a joke. We're fighting a goof. Not even fighting somebody who's like a colossus. There's not even a proper, you know, a proper what's the word I'm looking for? Opponent.
Yeah.
So like everything is there. If we just do everything right, it's fine. But if we don't do everything right, like you said, if we do things in fear and stress, then we're playing into their hands. So
Yeah.
literally the things that we don't should avoid because we have all the right tools. We found all the things we need.
Mm-hmm.
Chill out. Don't be stressed about what's going on. Take a breath and then move forward. Count to 10 before you do anything. Don't react. Don't react. Chill out. Be stressed. Don't react. And then it's easily won. Easily.
Yeah. And that's
because then it's easier to organize, calm about it, and not spontaneously doing stuff out of passion or aggression. It's like, no, we're calm, making decisions based on a calm mind with all the information.
And that's a process, which we need to accept is a process. For example, if we have a negative aspect of our behavior that we want to change, it happens repetitively like a habit, but then you make that decision. I want to stop reacting in this way. And, time goes on and then that thing happens and then you start reacting for a couple of seconds, but then all of a sudden you catch yourself because you're in a subconscious program and all of a sudden you're aware like, oh, wait, I don't want to be thinking like this. Okay. All right, let's start over. And you go back in and it's going to happen again. And it's going to happen again. I mean, this is without doing any like super learning psyche stuff, but just like the original surefire way to fix this is repetition. Mm-hmm. Every time you react, you don't beat yourself up for it, which is a huge part of the problem.
Right.
And then you say, okay, take a breath and do it again. And the more you do that, the time in between the moment of reacting and the moment of awareness starts to shorten to the point where eventually it'll come up, but you won't even react. Right. It's just, it's an entrainment process. And, the whole like election thing, I mean, it's like, I've had conversations with Mike about this. I've teeter-tottered on the side of like, hope and pessimism. Just like, I'm hopeful, but then at the same time, I'm like, this is not going to go well. The DNC is going to screw him over again, and people are going to, just like 2016, if anyone liked Bernie, if Bernie doesn't get it this time, he's going to lose a lot of credibility. But then I'd be hopeful again. It's like, so kind of go back and forth. And in the event of, let's say, like one of the worst case scenarios is that, Trump ends up getting reelected, or let's say it's a close margin and it's like that 3-month period. And then it's like, you know what, we're just going to void that election and, start over. A scenario that would need to happen after that in terms of like the example of not reacting, but taking a breath and thinking more clearly is, okay, well, instead of reacting like we did after 2016 and like the DNC and like a lot of people, kind of corralled by the DNC was like, oh, well, Trump became president, but it wasn't our fault. It was the Russians, and then just start like blaming other people for this thing that happened, which they were very instrumental in allowing to happen, but they didn't want to take responsibility. So that's like a whole nother thing. It's like you react and be like, oh man, why does this keep happening to me? And it's like, no, you're in the driver's seat. You can fucking take control. So in that scenario where let's say Trump for fucking reelected or, didn't get elected, never left or whatever, the smart thing to do in that position and be like, okay, we need to go after the DNC. We need to change. Like, I can imagine at that point there would have to be some sort of major upheaval about the Democratic establishment. It's like that George Bush, fool me once, shame on you, but you can't get fooled again. It's like don't fool me twice, shame on me. So it's like at that point we can't just continue to play the game. And it's like this is, I think, the last chance for Bernie. Like not his credibility, but it's the last chance of him like running as president. He's an icon, and his integrity is the movement is much bigger than him. So I think like in that fucked up scenario, the next thing that I know I would want to be motivated for, it's not like, oh, who's going to run for president against, after Trump is done in another 4 years. It's like, no, before we even get there, we need to fucking revolt against this establishment. These people fucked up twice. Mm-hmm. Because their first priority is they don't want a progressive person in charge, because that'll actually change anything, threatens their power. And then number two, their priority is, okay, well, then we'll stop Trump. But they don't want to. It's easier for a lot of these DNC guys to have Trump as a villain and to oppose Trump than it is to have somebody like Bernie Sanders in office and actually change things.
Yeah.
So if they fucking succeed again, which is like completely up in the air, then it's like, okay, we need to not react and be like, oh, the Russians did it, or oh, look at the stupid, deplorable Trump voters. It's all there for it's like, no. These fucking people are totally culpable for the reason these things came out, and their heads will be on spikes, proverbial spikes.
Proverbially, hopefully.
Yeah.
Well, because then we're just doing the same thing that they did, killing.
Yeah.
Mercy. But yeah, exactly. It's really, and if more than more than Bernie's credibility, like, it would just kind of be like, well, if I don't win 2 times in a row, if I get fucked 2 times in a row, kind of like there's no denying. His purpose essentially would have just been to exploit how, corrupt the DNC is to,
Yeah.
So if he doesn't win, there's a win in either way. If he wins, then he wins. If he doesn't win, then everybody wins, because then it's like, okay, this is not an anomaly. If people could convince themselves of it the first time, like you said, it's just exactly what you said. You fooled me once, but if we do it again, there's no way. Even people who are like background that are going to be like, well, it's like, well, shit, that happened again. All right, well, now I can't just pretend like I don't see that. Like that's pretty fucking obvious now. And it's just making itself more and more out. The whole system is, as time goes on, it's like, okay, all right, fine, and then hopefully it will just come to a point. It's like that little one frame cartoon of all the people, standing, protesting, standing on like a diving board or a wooden, big wooden plank, and then the president's like out on the plank, and he's over a cliff, and the only reason he's still up is because everyone's standing there holding up the other side of the plank, protesting. But if they would just walk away, the plank would fall off and the guy would fall down into the pit. That's everything.
Yep.
So if we just like, oh, the elections, what? No, we're not going to do that. Like, we're just going to do something else instead, because you guys have proven to us that literally elections don't mean anything. So if we have to change stuff, then we're going to change it in a different way, because this is not, this is the way, this is always that we see we need to change things through. But I feel like if it keeps going like this much longer, oh wait, this isn't the system we use to change things. This is the system we use to pretend like we're changing stuff. We need to there's an actual system over here where we change this stuff. We've just been distracted from it. So now we'll just stop playing the if you really want, a better world, this is the only way to do it. Mm-hmm. Politics, become president, run for Congress, make laws. This is the only way to make change. So you have to focus on us, and it's our game, so you got to play by our. But they only have a game because we choose to play. And if we chose to play something else, because this one is clearly not doing what we want, the majority of people want, then it's like, all right, well, what do we do now? Again, coming
Yeah.
back to not reacting instead of being upset. It's like, all right, well, use the energy you have
Yeah.
and make something else. Like a little metaphorical thing for it is there's a lot of Arsenal soccer fans that are upset with the club right now and the direction it's going and how they're playing. They're so unsuccessful in the last decade and this and that, and they're not listening to the fans. That a group of Arsenal fans literally went and funded their own new Arsenal team somewhere else, like obviously a smaller one, and they just pooled their money together. But they're like, all right, you know what? We're sick of supporting you guys and you guys not listening. We're just going to make our own new team, call the same thing, and we're going to support that team because they're going to be more of the people, and they're going to be pure blooded soccer football fans. So they decided to say, you're not listening to me. I'm going to go do my own thing. I still love the sport and I love the team, but we're going to go make a new team, and I'm going to support that team.
Yep.
That's kind of what it's coming down to at this point. It's like, all right, we've given our whole lives to the Democrats or the Republicans, and we've given all our money and invested so much time and energy into them, but they're not listening to us, and nothing is changing. So let's just do our own. Like, finally, we still have the energy. We still have just as many people that care. Let's just do something different. Because if you're not listening, we have a lot of ideas and a lot of stuff that we could do. A lot of stuff we could do.
A new
and then
party.
They'd have to pay attention to us. They'd have to pay attention to us.
Yeah.
A new party or a new system, just like a completely
new system.
outside that system. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's huge, ridiculous to say, but
that's
it only exists because we're playing the game
right
every time.
Right. And like even the idea of a party, like a third party to come in that would redefine the system altogether. That has happened multiple times in this country, where the idea it's like Republican and Democrat. Be like, well, Abraham Lincoln was a Republican, so it's like, no, the Republicans back then were not what the Republicans are today.
Right.
And then even back then, before Abraham Lincoln, there wasn't even Republicans. There was like the Whig Party and the Federalist Party, and there was like all these different things that had different things that changed over time. And yeah, it's just unfortunate that the system as is designed to play itself into a corner. What are they doing? Is it like
I'm just not hitting a snare drum now. Banging on a snare drum.
Wow. Have you ever went down there and been like, hey, keep it down?
No.
I know.
It's not worth it. He doesn't do that often, but
yeah. But
because I'm loud up here too.
Yeah.
It's a passive aggressive relationship,
Nice. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. That's good. Another thing too is during all of this discourse and changes that are happening, and like if this time we have like a timeline. Oh, if it doesn't work this, all right, we'll wait till next season, and maybe the team players will change, and let's try it again next season. I feel like America, on the other hand, is we're reaching the end of our rope in terms of our credibility in the world as the superpower, where it's like it's coming down to now the only reason that we still are the superpower is because we have so many nuclear weapons, and our financial system is completely tied to oil, in the sense where if you want to buy oil anywhere in the world, you have to buy it with US dollars. The US petrodollar system. It's those two things. It's like the fear that America could just nuke anyone in the world, or the fact that, our money is God. That we're reaching the end of our rope to the point where if we don't get our shit together, then the idea of like, oh, well, the DNC is to blame, or, oh, Donald Trump is to blame. It's like, you know what? We are all guilty by association.
Yeah.
We are all guilty by association, just like Nazi Germany at the Nuremberg trials. When you go down the ranks beyond the top SS officers and you get down to the everyday people that were basically supporting what was going on, be like, well, I was just doing my job, or, I didn't know what was going on. It's like, yeah, well, sorry, but that excuse is not going to cut it here. You should have known better. Why didn't you do anything? Well, everybody else wasn't doing anything. It's like, well, sorry, that's not going to hold up in court, dude.
Yeah.
Like it's like if I feel like I mean, every election feels like this, where this is the election that's going to define the, like when George Bush, oh, this is it. Everything's up to this one election. It's like, all right, then the next, oh, everything's up to this election. That'll continue up to a point, I think, because things are changing in the world so much, especially with the population, the migrations, the wars, all that stuff, changing the environment. We need to have a reckoning. If we don't do it on our own accord, then it will be done to us in a way that we don't necessarily want, because at that point we will not be in the driver's seat anymore. And the hubris and the arrogance, thinking that we will always be in the driver's seat, like we are the empire that rules the world. Anytime a fucking empire thought that, that's like, the heralding bells of the empire is going down.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's totally a possibility. But if you look at Germany as a good example, even though it took all of that, they're one of the most progressive fucking countries in the world now.
Right.
They're literally one of the most progressive countries in the world. And they recognize they had a dark past. It's not all about like, oh, America has been great since the beginning and idolizing the history. Yeah, they idolize parts of the history, but they can't teach their kids in school as if fucking Hitler didn't come in. And
right.
So they teach their kids. It's like, yeah, we love our country, but you know what? This is what happens when a country, we fucked up big time. That anytime America's fucked up and it's taught in a history class, it's like a minor note. It's like very much minimalized. Like, oh, we made some make mistakes, but everybody makes mistakes. What are you gonna do? It's like, hey, excuse me, no, we've got some major tarnishes. We can't keep just looking at a beautiful America as if it's a golden city on a hill.
Right.
If we're gonna move forward, we need to recognize that no, things are not working the way they are, and we need to change them. We need to recognize the wrongs that we've done. Bernie Sanders represents that, whereas Donald Trump is like, let's go back to the days where we don't give a fuck and we do whatever we want. It's like...
Yeah. Yeah, no. I mean, but it's they're both perfectly represented in two old white men,
Yeah.
But it seems to be the theme, though, just 2020 vision. Need to start seeing things as they are.
Yeah.
Seeing our history as it is, our future as it is, and especially our current way of life, how it is. Be honest. We have to be honest and see things how they really, really are. And then that's the only way, like you said, that's the only way America can move forward. That's the only way, like, we can move forward as Democrats or Republicans. Like, we can't keep acting like the way we do in the world. If we don't acknowledge how we actually are, keep painting this picture of yourself, then you're going to behave in the way that you see yourself. And if it's untrue to who you actually are, then there's going to be so everybody just needs to be reflective and get that 2020 vision. And I think that's the first step.
Yeah. I mean, they both talk about empowerment, but unfortunately, when one side talks about empowerment, they're straight up lying. Withholding, okay, empowerment for whom? Empowerment for all of us, or empowerment for a small group of people who, have power? Let's give the people that have power more power. Power begets power. We're going to reward the people that have already got the power. Or are we going to talk about empowerment in the other sense, where it's like, look, we need to empower. We need to give everybody a chance here. If we're going to thrive as a country, we're as strong as our weakest link. And if we keep looking at our weakest link with the belief that, oh, that means because that's your fucking genetics, or that's just the luck of the draw, it's because you're lazy, we're just cutting our own throats. We're cutting our nose to spite our face at that point.
Yep.
Yeah.
I wonder what, like, an actual conversation between Bernie Sanders and Trump, like a very candid, out of the spotlight, like in one of their living rooms, what would that even be like? Like, would they even be able to communicate, like, on that?
I have a feeling they could.
Perspective.
Trump is so malleable to whatever is around him that I think under those, like, very, like, minimal, natural, no spotlight, no cameras, You know, I have a feeling that conversation would go down a lot easier than people would think. Because Trump wants people to like him. He wants to. I mean, he's a narcissist in that way, but then also he just kind of molds to whatever is around him. He's not really an intelligent guy,
Right.
So it's like Bernie's a very intelligent person. Trump is going to say what he has to say to win in the spotlight. But I wonder that too. I feel like, I personally think that if they had like a conversation like man to man outside all the bullshit, not Trump as president, but just like, let's say these two guys got into a room and had a conversation. Probably. I could see it going like a completely like, benevolent way.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a completely hypothetical scenario.
It's probably hard for both of them to do, even if they are out of the spotlight and nobody knows or whatever. Such modes right now where they're like president mode or becoming president mode that you can't. It's probably really hard to snap out of being president or, on your way on a campaign to being a president. So,
yeah, Doc Brown versus Biff.
Brown versus Biff. Dude, I watched Rebel Without a Cause recently for the first time.
I've never seen that.
It's it's where a lot of the McFly Biff like they must have gotten all that from Buzz and I don't know what James Dean's name is in the movie, but like it's totally the same McFly.
Really?
Like the whole thing. They even call him Chicken, and he's being called Chicken. Like that's
wow.
just like set off.
Yep. That makes sense.
But yeah, but it is. But I mean, it's so wild that they're so different. Obviously, Hillary and Trump were in theory more different because of the way they looked. One was a male, one was a female. But Bernie and Trump, I think, are super similar but super dissimilar in so many ways. It's kind of a weird Venn diagram.
Yeah.
It's overlapping, different perspective, but there's such like the two paths are so different.
Oh, big time.
Like we're seeing Trump's path right now, and then if Trump gets his elected a second time, like who knows, it might just be amplified. Whereas if Bernie gets it, it'll be, I feel like this is the most different it could get from one president to the next, which is why, as you were saying, it always seems like this next election is the most important. That's also because they have a really good PR team and they hype it up really well, and they want everyone to think that it's the most important thing to watch. But
yeah,
it'll certainly be a show, and I'll stream everything on YouTube. And whatnot. Who knows what'll happen? And
that would be a hell of a debate. That would be like so much more interesting to watch because those guys are both outsiders. They both kind of ran on the same idea, like originally about like fuck the system, we need to change things. But a lot of people that voted for Trump didn't vote for him because they believed in what he said. They voted for him because they didn't like Hillary.
Yeah.
And another variable here is that there are, I think, like this next election, like, I mean, all the kids that just turned 18, it's like the biggest surge in like potential voters in a long time. So there could, and like all the people that voted for Trump because they didn't like Hillary, and it's like, well, Bernie's a much more likable person.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, again, saying he's going to cancel the student debt, that like I'm banking on if he becomes the nominee, that there's going to be a shit ton of people, a lot of kids going to come out of the woodwork to fucking vote for this guy just on that.
Well,
that
and weed,
like no brainer. Like I'm voting for Bernie. Yeah. Like who gives a fuck about all the other issues? Like
right. So that's why that is like an excellent PR move for him, but it makes sense economically as well. But yeah. Yeah. So that doesn't surprise me that those kids turning 18. Yeah, they don't know who Trump is. They don't know. There's no nostalgia from kind of Trump. I remember him. He was, silly Donald. Yeah, these 18-year-olds now are like they only know him as this guy.
Yeah.
They don't know him as that guy.
Yeah.
So
And he's a
So there's
clown.
nothing.
He's
he
a
is
clown.
That's all they've seen him as.
And people like him. A lot of people like him for that exact reason. Like a lot of people have been so apathetic towards the system. They're just like, like they don't get like Trump will lie no matter what, and they'll be like, yeah, I don't give a shit if he's lying. Like, good for him. It's funny.
Yeah, right.
Like people vote for him on that. Like he's got that going for him for sure. And you know,
Yeah. What a silly mess.
it's a silly mess. It's crazy. It's almost like it was meant to be like this.
Yeah. Almost like.
Almost like that. When's Martin Sheen gonna run? Did you watch? Did you see Watchmen yet?
The show? No, I haven't.
Dude, it was so good. You got to make a Plex account. You can stream it from your computer.
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
And Lighthouse,
Shit,
and Midsommar.
They're all there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm fucking up.
It's
I'll do that.
yeah, my computer's always on, man.
Sweet.
Yeah, dude.
We'll do that. I'm gonna do that tonight.
Well, I'll definitely upload this podcast. I'm gonna try to get it up immediately because I feel like it's relevant to what's going on.
Yeah, it's relevant.
I'll title it like like State of the Union or something. State of the Union recap.
So all we did was talk about the State of the Union the whole time. Ladies and gentlemen, for your hottest news on the State of the Union, come to the Video Shamans.
Come to the Video Shaman YouTube channel. Yep, this is where you'll get the truth. You can't handle the truth on Video Shaman.
You can. There we go. Like, can't handle the truth. Perfect. All right, man. Yeah, that's a great way to sum it up. I think that's the road that we've gone on tonight. So we can handle the truth.
Man, got your
do it.
American
We already
flag
did.
back there.
America.
State of the Union.
State of the Union. Damn. Man, that was a good State of the Union. That was a good time.
Good times. Awesome, brother, man. Well, always great talking with you. I'll get this up as soon as the internet allows me to and everything. Always a great conversation, man. Lots of love to you, man.
Yeah, good talking to you. Love you too. Hope things are good. And then, we'll see if we can stay on this and do it again sometime in the next week or two. Just let me know. I pretty much have the schedule and not going on. So,
all right.
Love you, man. Thanks for taking the time out.
Absolutely.
Little Thor back there. Good seeing you and the pups. We'll talk to you.
Poopy.
Yeah, we'll talk to you soon, man.
All right, man. Sounds good.
Peace up. Cheers.
Cheese up. Cheese up, man.
Cheese pizza.
To cheese pizza. Oh, there's a really good pizza spot right around the corner. You'll like it a lot.
All right, I can't wait.
All right, brother, man. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, see ya.
Peace.
Peace.